Chapter 204 Something is wrong. Soon, evening was approaching. Nangong Chen looked at the red moon, slowly rising in the sky, and fell into deep thought. There were still 27 days left until the end of the immortal hidden zone. During these 3 days, he had already walked along the periphery, but still hadn't reached the end. His speed was not slow. That means this vast wilderness is really too big, so big that it is unimaginable. Not only that, but even in the past few days, no geniuses from the other 9 realms have been encountered here. He had originally wanted to grab some points, but since he didn't encounter any, he gave up and focused on setting up the 9 Sky Star Array. If the route he took had not yet formed a closed loop on the last day before the end, he would detonate the 9 Sky Star Array. After all, if it dragged on, it would be the end. This 9 Sky Star fighting formation is a god-level formation, although it cannot exert its full strength in his hands. Even if it can only exert 1/10,000th of its strength, it is enough to destroy all the anomalies in this mountain range. However, if it explodes to some people, then they can only be considered unlucky. Anyway, before detonating the explosion, he would at least tell Lichishin and the others in advance and ask them to leave. As for the other 9 realms, it didn't matter. He is not a saint, so there's no need to consider everyone. Besides, they are enemies. His ultimate goal has always been the highest mystery of the Double Pupils, the inheritance left by the legendary girl with double pupils, the double pupils that open the sky. Everything else has nothing to do with him. It is said that only those who rank in the top 10 in the second round can be brought into a supreme, ancient, immortal palace by the spirit of the world and have the opportunity to obtain the inheritance of those supreme beings. This is why, even though the immortal treasure is so dangerous, there are still countless monsters flocking to it, and even willing to pay any price to enter here. Although the great wilderness mountains here are full of dangers, there are also some precious medicines that are tens of thousands of years old. For example, in the past few days, he has found a lot of good things, and the precious medicines in the Tianyuan Mansion have reached hundreds. As for other more mysterious opportunities, they may be found deep within the mountains. If they can be obtained, it will benefit ordinary geniuses for a lifetime. After leaving, they will surely become the most powerful in the region, admired by thousands of people in the future. Suddenly, Su Li on the side exclaimed, as if she found something wrong. Have you noticed that these corpses underground don't look like those of ferocious beasts? They feel familiar. In the jungle here, there's several corpse fragments. Most of the flesh and blood have been hollowed out by those alien creatures, leaving only a corner of clothing. Nangong Chen took a look, his eyes slightly focused. His pupils were extremely bright, with strange visions of interwoven runes in them, as if he could see through everything. It's actually them. Several figures suddenly appeared in Nangong Chen's mind. There were Yi Guqing and others were crossing the sea. But after looking for a while, there were only 5 corpses, which means that the 2 powerful souls that had lurked in before were not among them. So they were the ones who killed him? Nangong Chen's expression was calm, his eyes peaceful. He didn't seem too surprised, but rather seemed to have expected it. The 2 people could not hide under his double pupils, which was why he did not say much to Yi Guqing while crossing the sea, because for a dying person, there's naturally no need to say more. After sensing a wisp of aura lingering on the ground, Nangong Chen's eyes gleamed with a glint, and he murmured, "A quasi-saint? I'm not mistaken, and this wisp of blood energy does bear some resemblance to the people of the blood god cult. The reason these 2 concealed their identities and came here is that they had other purposes. This place is a treasure trove of immortals, and demons from all over the world gather here. If they're not here for the opportunities, then there's a high probability that they are here for us. In other words, their purpose in coming here is to kill us. However, there are rules and restrictions within the immortal treasures. Those above the Divine King realm cannot enter. Let me guess, they probably have something that can conceal the secrets of heaven or even negate the rules. They want to kill us again, and they have such a treasure. It seems that they're most likely the blood god cult." Just from a wisp of breath, he guessed roughly that if Luan Xin and others were present, they would be shocked speechless. Su Li was a little confused as she listened, her beautiful eyes filled with bewilderment. What does quasi-saint or not have to do with the blood god cult? Seeing her confused look, Nangong Chen briefly explained to her. After Su Li heard this, her expression kept changing. First she was shocked, and then her face turned pale. "So the 2 quasi-saints of the blood god cult sneaked in here just to kill us?" Su Li said in surprise, with some disbelief in her beautiful eyes. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, his expression calm. Su Li's heart couldn't help but tighten. After all, these were 2 quasi-saints. The gap between a quasi-saint and a god king was so huge. What's more, they were only at the realm of great power and had not yet stepped into the realm of god king. How can we resist these 2 god kings? Besides, Qiao is not here anymore. For a moment, Su Li felt hopeless, and a hint of despair appeared in her beautiful eyes. However, she was a little surprised to see Nangong Chen's calm expression. She asked curiously, "Aren't you afraid? That's a quasi-saint." Nangong Chen shook his head, his lips curled up. "Why should you be afraid? My husband is here, even if he is a quasi-saint. I can blow his skull off." After saying that, he hugged Su Li into his arms, looked at him, and chuckled. "If you are afraid, you can hide in your husband's arms." There was a sense of complete confidence in his words, giving people a sense of security. After seeing this, Su Li couldn't help but be stunned. She turned her beautiful face away and whispered, "Tisk, you're the one who's scared." Nangong Chen looked at her beautiful face and smelled the faint fragrance. He was stunned. A heat rose from his heart. The next moment, he couldn't help but kiss the beauty in his arms. Su Li was stunned. She didn't expect Nangong Chen to kiss her like this. For a moment, she couldn't help but feel a little flustered, and a barely perceptible joy flashed in the depths of her eyes. "What are you doing? People will see you." "It doesn't matter." "Hiss. Pig's hoof, you bit me and hurt me." "Sorry." After a while, looking at Su Li, whose lips were slightly brighter, Nangong Chen looked apologetic. "Snort." Su Li pretended to be angry, snorted lightly, and walked in front, speeding up her pace for a while. When Nangong Chen saw her, he smiled and followed her quietly in a stunning white robe. In a place where no one could see, Su Li's breathtakingly beautiful face seemed to have thought of something, and the corners of her mouth slightly raised. For a moment, the world seemed a little dim. "Strange, it's been so long, and they haven't come yet? Could it be that Yu Shun and the others really encountered some kind of accident?" "No, I'm going to find them." Li Qixin's eyes were solemn as he spoke. "You haven't been here for so long. You must have encountered some danger. Look, their ranking has been destroyed." At this moment, a voice was heard. It was Xiongda who was screaming under the tree. After hearing this, everyone looked at the screen on the bracelet and searched downwards. Sure enough, when I saw the ranking colors of Yi Guqing and the others, they suddenly lost their luster and turned gray, and their points were also cleared. Turning gray means that the person was killed and eliminated. This was what they discovered when Chun Hong died. At that time, just like now, the rankings turned gray. For a moment, everyone's pupils shrank slightly, their hearts turned cold, and some people couldn't believe it. "Where's the moon goddess?" After hearing this, Jiang Che was struck by lightning and muttered, while frantically looking for Jiang Yingyue's ranking. Ranked 8th, Jiang Yingyue, Xintian Realm, 12,200 points. At this moment, after seeing Jiang Yingyue's ranking, many people breathed a sigh of relief. But after seeing the terrifying points, many people were still shocked. Why is her score so high? Everyone else is dead. What did they discover? No, not only is Jiang Yingyue not dead, but Wen Shun and Wen Zhe are also not dead. Hiss. So, they were attacked? Are these three very powerful and only managed to escape? Something's wrong. Yi Guqing must be stronger than the two people from the one family. If these two can survive, why can't Yi Guqing survive? For a moment, everyone was confused, with all kinds of doubts in their minds. Even Li Muxiu was frowning and thinking. Soon, someone discovered that Wen Shun and Wen Zhe were ranked 11th and 12th, and their rankings were still increasing at an extremely fast rate. Ranked 11th, Wen Shun, Xintian Realm, 10,040 points. Ranked 12th, Wen Zhe, Xintian Domain, 9,800 points. When everyone saw this, they were shocked and full of doubts. "What? You said you knew something was wrong with Wen Shun and Wen Zhe?" At this moment, under an ancient tree, Xiongda said in disbelief, "I asked you to keep your voice down." Beside him, Lu Dezhu tried his best to shut his mouth. After hearing this, everyone looked over there with a look of horror in their eyes. Li Qixin, Li Muxiu, and Chu Yan flashed and appeared in front of Lu Dezhu in an instant. This matter involves human life and death. There is no room for joking. "Lu Dezhu, tell us everything you know," Li Qixin said seriously. With the halberd in his hand, an invisible sense of oppression emerged. Lu Dezhu trembled as he told everything he knew. "You said that within Wen Shun's body is an old man with goat horns on his head, and within Wen Zhe's body is an evil ghost covered in flames? Their strength is greater than all the geniuses who crossed the sea, and is about the same as the quasi-saints you saw in Tianbao Pavilion." Li Muxiu immediately grasped the key point and asked quickly. Lu Dezhu nodded frantically like a chick pecking at rice. Because Lu Dezhu's talent is to see into the heart, which is related to the soul, he can naturally see things that ordinary people cannot see. So no one suspected anything. Li Muxiu's face was filled with shock, as if he had thought of something. He said slowly, "Oh no, I'm afraid Wen Shun and Wen Zhe are two quasi-saints in disguise. As for their target, I'm afraid we are the ones." No, we have to leave here quickly. If we're late, we'll all die. Hurry. Avoid the previously marked location and go somewhere else. Oh, Saint Chu, your team shouldn't come with us. Otherwise, if we're found, we'll be wiped out. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expressions changed drastically, and they all burst out with their cultivation, transforming into countless streams of light, one of which faced west, the other south. An hour later, two black figures descended here. They looked around and narrowed their eyes slightly. It seems that these bastards are quite fast. Luan Xin muttered to himself, feeling the lingering breath between heaven and earth. Did they discover us? Liang Gui was a little surprised. It should be. However, this is not important. In the face of such absolute strength, all strategies and tactics will become nothing. Well, since that's the case, let's slowly look for these little mice. Luan Xen laughed evilly, revealing an expression of enjoyment. He really liked this feeling the most, torturing these geniuses to madness. Chapter 205, Vacation? Outsiders are shocked. 3,000 words. In the outside world. Damn, it seems like they really are just here for vacation. After a long time, someone looked at the projection in the void and said in a lost voice. In fact, the others were also shocked. They had seen the man with double pupils walking with the Ice Phoenix goddess, and had thought that after eating the barbecue, they would go hunting for ferocious beasts. Unexpectedly, the two of them were strolling leisurely, chatting and laughing along the way, and occasionally killing a few ferocious beasts coming out of the woods. Apart from that, they didn't do anything else. It was as if they were just here for fun. You know, in the past few days, whether it was Li Qixin and his group, or Chu Sheng and others, they were either fighting or on the way to fighting, with great hatred and bitterness, fighting for every second. However, the images today are so different that it seems as if they're no longer in the same style. Obviously, they entered the immortal treasure. There's nothing wrong with that. Looking at the scene where the two showed their affection, everyone present was silent for a long time. I see. It must be because the double pupil man and the Ice Phoenix goddess killed too many ferocious beasts the day before yesterday. They've been too tired lately, so they're taking a break today. I think so too. After all, there's a saying in Xintian territory that goes, you can't be too tense when practicing. Relaxation is the way to go. Perhaps after they relax today, they will devote themselves even more to hunting ferocious beasts in the next few days. Then, they will bring us even greater surprises. Some people speculated, their eyes flashing. After hearing this, everyone suddenly understood and sighed. So that's how it is. No wonder this couple is so enchanting. It turns out they have a special way of cultivation. It's a great opportunity for us to see them today. Honestly, seeing the double pupil man and the Ice Phoenix goddess walking side by side is quite pleasant. At least I've been watching all this fighting and killing for so many days, and I'm a little tired of it. It's nice to have some of this every now and then. Yeah, am I the only one who thinks the meat roasted by the one with double pupils is delicious? Even the Ice Phoenix goddess ate so much of it. If I could have a taste of it, I would brag about it for the rest of my life. Let's not even think about it. If you were a woman and as stunningly beautiful as the Ice Phoenix goddess, then there would be some possibility. Otherwise, you'd better go to bed early. For a moment, the atmosphere among everyone was extremely relaxed and happy, and they seemed to have forgotten the tension brought by the two quasi-saints. In the crowd, Qingyu looked at the two people talking and laughing in the picture. Her beautiful eyes couldn't help but dim, and her mind was full of thoughts. So, sir, do you also have this kind of side towards the person you like? It was the first time I saw the young master so happy. The Ice Phoenix goddess beside him was also a surprisingly good match for him. Qingyu was a little dazed when she saw this scene. She couldn't help but clench her hands secretly. Her beautiful face was slightly pursed with her lips. When Qing Fan, who was standing by, saw this, he also sighed with a complicated expression, not knowing how to comfort her. After all, the gap between the two is like the difference between heaven and earth. Of course, there were also some people who were not optimistic about Nangong Chen, and they were sneering in the dark at this moment. Most of these disciples who spoke were from the Sun God Palace. I think this person with double pupils knew that two quasi-saints were coming, so he simply gave up resistance. That's why he chose to play with the Ice Phoenix goddess. After all, if he didn't play, he would die there. The person who spoke was a junior fellow of Yi Guqing, with gloomy eyes and a cold tone. Seeing Yi Guqing die in the immortal treasure, they all hoped that the other geniuses of Xintian domain would be buried with him, so naturally they did not care about the lives of others. There's nothing we can do about it. Human nature is just like that. They don't care about the entire Xintian territory. The other disciples also echoed, and were very disdainful. He died well. I've been annoyed with him for a long time. Now that he's dead, it's a great relief to everyone. The two quasi-saints of the blood god cult are there. It will be as easy as crushing an ant to death. I will definitely enjoy watching the pain on the face of that arrogant man. In the void, those powerful beings all concentrated their attention. After watching what Nangong Chen and Suli did, they were a little confused about what they were going to do for a moment. As for what the people below said about relaxing, that was complete nonsense. For a genius, every minute and every second was extremely important, let alone a monster of this level. What do you think? What exactly does this kid want to do? Someone spoke with a complicated expression. They could see that although the two of them were talking and laughing along the way, Nangong Chen was the one in charge. In other words, the backbone was the man with double pupils, and he definitely had his own ideas. Could it be that they already knew about the two quasi-saints who came in, and therefore chose to hide in this way? It's somewhat possible. After all, the beasts we encountered along the way were of normal strength, and we can also see that they're surrounding the periphery of the entire mountain range. This is indeed a good idea. If the two quasi-saints of the blood god cult want to hunt down those top-tier geniuses, they will definitely know what they are thinking and head towards the core of the mountain range. This mountain range is too huge. If we hide in the periphery, the enemy will never be able to predict us. This is the only possibility these powerful people can think of. After hearing this, the other powerful people also nodded, with gleams in their eyes. That's really clever. Then everything makes sense. Now that two quasi-saints have entered the immortal treasure, saving their lives is of paramount importance. As for advancing to the second round, I'm afraid even if I have the strength to enter, I won't survive. Some people showed admiration in their eyes and were very optimistic about the foresight of the person with double pupils. Some people expressed regret and said, "Alas, with such a sudden change, returning alive would be the best." However, no one from us will be able to enter the immortal hidden treasure this time. This is the first time in countless generations that this has happened. After these words were spoken, everyone fell silent. After all, sneaking in two quasi-saints this time was too difficult for those geniuses. Due to the disparity in strength, they didn't even have the ability to resist. What's more, the other party was the four leaders of the blood god cult. Advancing has become a luxury. In fact, just being alive is enough. Maybe there will be some unexpected changes. At this moment, Ning Rong from the Holy Land of Astronomy said with concentration. When the others heard this, they were also surprised. "Where did you get this from?" Ning Rong thought for a while and said slowly, "Have you forgotten?" If Liqishan and Saint Chu and the others realized something was wrong and wandered around the periphery with their combined strength, even those monsters on the periphery will be able to gather a lot of points with so many people. At least, if there are no unexpected circumstances, our Xintian territory can still produce two monsters to enter the second round. As for the other geniuses, they definitely don't know that two quasi-saints have sneaked in. The four leaders of the blood god cult will not let them go. They might even be able to kill the core evildoers from other domains. This will reduce the number of competitors for our Xintian domain in the second round. In other words, this is potentially our most promising class. If the seeds of other factions are eliminated with Overlord and his group's power, they might even be able to break into the top three. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's blood boiled and their eyes glowed. Yeah, why didn't they think of that? As long as we avoid those two quasi-saints, we can let the two blood god sects' four masters hunt down the geniuses from other domains. At that time, they in Xintian territory were the first to know about it. Not only could they take advantage of the information gap, but they could also hunt down the ferocious beasts outside in advance. Not far away, the elder of Howran Pavilion also heard these words. The figure of Nangong Chen appeared in his mind, and there was some regret in his eyes. This idea is indeed feasible, but unfortunately, the equally powerful double pupil person has no chance to enter the second round. With his strength, he could at least be in the top 20, but unfortunately, he was harmed by Yi Guqing, who listened to the traitor. Of course, he hadn't thought about making it to the second round, but the probability was too small. With the two of them, both in terms of strength and numbers, they were far behind other teams. You're not going to tell me that the person with double pupils is the so-called variable, are you? Li Sanhai withdrew his gaze and said with some disbelief. Bai Wu Dao on the side nodded, then shook his head and said, "Yes and no." Li Sanhai was a little confused. What on earth did this old man want to say? That's not right. He doesn't look like that at all. Li Sanhai thought of what had just happened in the immortal treasure and said with some doubt. Although he admired Nangong Chen, he was not so stupid. It was obvious that none of Nangong Chen's actions were announced to the world. He had already given up, so he simply stopped competing with others. Li Sanhai shook his head, somewhat confused, and continued to look at the projection in the void. In the Tianyuan Dynasty. After watching the projection, Nangong Chen breathed a sigh of relief and secretly put the brocade bag back. Fortunately, his son was smart and must have guessed something, so he simply walked to the periphery and didn't run into the two people from the blood god cult. unless one is extremely unlucky and encounters them in this boundless periphery, or the 2 or 4 leaders of the blood god cult have treasures that can be used to track them down, one can find their traces. Obviously, these 2 possibilities are almost negligible. This also made him feel a little relieved. As long as Nangong Chen did not take the initiative to commit suicide and ran to the core of the mountain, nothing would happen. He also didn't need to use the magic bag. After all, it was better to keep a trump card. Chapter 206 Tianqing's plan, Ancient Immortal Ruins. As for the civil and military officials below, the previous haze had long been swept away, and they kept praising the wisdom of Nangong Chen and Su Li. As smart people, their reactions were naturally not so slow, and they could easily figure out what they were thinking. And on the other side is the corner. 3 pairs of resentful eyes were now fixed on the picture in the void. If one looked closely, one would surely discover a hint of resentment in those beautiful eyes. When Su Yao saw this, her little face tilted, and her cute face showed a bewildered look. 3 sisters, are you jealous of your brother-in-law? Puff. After hearing this, Wang Yuxuan couldn't help but feel as if she had received 1,000 blows in her heart. Suddenly, she felt that her little cotton-padded jacket was no longer that warm. After hearing this, Zhou Wan'er and Lu Ruyin also remained silent. Inside the immortal treasure house. Soon, 20 days passed, and there were only 7 days left until the end of the final immortal treasure. A lot of things have happened during these days. First, more than 10 days ago, conflicts broke out between several domains and fighting was going on. Then, 2 quasi-saint level strongmen who appeared from nowhere intervened. There were heavy casualties that day, and all the geniuses from the 3 last domains were wiped out. On the leaderboard, nearly 40 people were almost all eliminated. At the same time, on the leaderboard, 2 people quickly rushed to the front and directly occupied the 1st and 2nd places. These 2 people were Wen Shun and Wen Zhe from Xintian Domain. At this moment, they should be called Luan Xin and Liang Gui. Their scores reached a terrifying 200,000 points, and even the 3rd-place Protoss had a considerable gap behind them. That day, the other domains were all shocked. They couldn't imagine that there would be such a monster among the weak human race. Of course, this also included the demons of the Hidden Heaven realm, the demons of the Demon realm, the Buddhas of the Buddha realm, and the giants of the Wild realm. They were terrified, their hearts filled with shock, as if thunder had struck out of nowhere, and the shock lasted for a long time. Someone had previously threatened to kill one of their young people. At this moment, another piece of news came out. It turned out that the evildoers who had escaped from the hands of the 1st and 2nd commanders found out that the so-called human prodigy was not the young humans they had seen while crossing the sea. One of them was an old man with goat horns on his head, and the other was an evil ghost covered in flames. The most surprising thing was that their cultivation had reached the level of quasi-saint. As the news spread, the geniuses from other domains finally realized that something was wrong. How could a quasi-saint come in? This must be a conspiracy of a human race. They're trying to hide it from the world and take advantage of loopholes in the rules to get 1st place. Of course, the most frustrating thing is that they have no other options but to flee day and night, which slows down their hunting speed. At the same time, they became even more disgusted with this despicable human race, who actually resorted to such low-class means. A core in the mountains. In a cavernous and treasured place, the treasures inside emitted a hazy aura, and there were also some rare and precious stones lying among them. Strangely, there was no one guarding this place. The next moment, a black figure landed here. He had an old face and 2 goat horns on his head. Obviously, it was Luan Xin. Then Liang Gui tore through the void and walked out of it. The aura emanating from his body was extremely terrifying, and dark flames danced in his eyes. Liang Gui glanced around and found that there was no one around. He looked a little puzzled. Strange, these blood eaters seem to be able to sense our coming. Why have they fled so quickly in the past few days? These blood eaters have learned their lesson. They've teamed up to tip off the enemy. Luan Xin closed his eyes tightly, and a demonic intent instantly surged out, sweeping across the entire ground. The next moment, he seemed to sense something and snorted coldly. Hee. So that's how it is. No wonder I haven't seen any geniuses on the road these days. I kind of miss their scent. Liang Gui's face showed sudden realization, and then he smiled evilly. Don't worry, it will be possible. Luan Xin said meaningfully. His narrow eyes flashed with a gleam of light, and then he walked straight into the treasure land. Liang Gui followed closely behind, and when they saw these treasures, they looked at each other and saw greed in each other's eyes. Soon, everything in the place was swept away. Ranshin and Ryoki disappeared from the spot and headed to the next place. What a despicable human race. If we find out, we will make them suffer a fate worse than death. On the other side, Wan Tianqing's face turned black. After hearing the information reported by his subordinates, he gritted his teeth and said, his eyes almost spewing out anger. Just now, the treasure land they found was discovered by those two powerful human beings. They had no choice but to give it up. When this news came out, not only Wan Tiansheng, but other giants were also angry and felt very aggrieved. Over the years, they have never suffered such injustice. The key is that they are so oppressed by the human race. This makes them feel extremely humiliated. In their wild land, these weak humans are like ants and can be crushed to death with one foot. They even treat them as food. But I never thought that in this immortal treasure, I would be bullied by other human races like this. Of course, it's not just them. The geniuses from other domains are also filled with anger at this moment. Have you found other humans? I don't believe it. They are all so powerful. Wan Tiansheng looked at a slightly shorter giant below and asked. The short giant, with gleaming eyes, slowly moved forward. The giants beside him did not dare to have any other opinions and gave way one after another. Because this person is Wan Tiansheng's confidant, a giant dwarf. Although he is short, only 5 or 6 meters tall, he is smart and cunning, and can be regarded as the think tank in their team. The giant tree knelt on the ground, kissed his ankle, and responded respectfully, My king, last night I saw a group of humans on the eastern mountain peaks, heading nonstop for Tianyuan Waterfall. They must be heading for the ancient, immortal ruins in 2 days. After hearing this, Wan Tiansheng's eyes sparkled and he felt a little excited, but he still asked cautiously, Those humans are the ones we saw when we crossed the sea, right? Could they have changed their appearance again, like those two quasi-saints? No, my king, I remember clearly. They were just ordinary geniuses among the human race. And there weren't many of them, probably only a few. I guess they must have split up and acted separately. Juju shook his head and said seriously, That's good. I've finally caught you, the weak human race. Just a few of you, thinking you could get a piece of the ancient immortal ruins? That's just a foolish dream. Now that I've caught you, I'll drain your tendons, drink your blood, and feast on your flesh. Wan Tiansheng clenched his fists, a fierce look flashed in his eyes, and he spoke in a cold tone. The ancient immortal ruins are a relic that was recently discovered by people in this area. It is said that a creature discovered a sealed relic after stepping into the Tianyuan waterfall. After the creature used his means to translate those ancient runes, he found that this relic had actually buried an ancient immortal. When the news spread to the surrounding area, the nearby creatures began to call it the ancient immortal ruins. When Meng Yu heard the news, he quickly went there, wanting to take it for himself. However, he found that the forces of the creatures who had discovered the ancient immortal ruins had already been stationed around there. Soon, a conflict broke out between Meng Yu and the other party. Finally, because the opponent was from the N domain, its strength was not strong. Its leader was defeated by Wan Tiansheng and was swallowed into his stomach. The others were also wiped out, and the giants won a great victory. And those creatures nearby who wanted to spy were killed by people sent by Meng Yu, and Fengsheng was completely killed here. I don't know how those weak humans found this place. Wan Tiansheng was a little confused, but he didn't think too much about it. After all, this place is so big, it is possible that the other party came in by chance. Unfortunately, the other party didn't know that this place had been occupied by the giants, and they had spies everywhere. Thinking of this, Wan Tiansheng's eyes flashed with coldness, and a cruel plan came to his mind. He asked, They haven't discovered us, have they? My king, no, Juju said respectfully. In that case, follow me now and set off for the ancient immortal ruins to ambush them. They will definitely be there in 2 days. By then, Wan Tiansheng laughed loudly, his expression extremely cruel, and the murderous intent could no longer be stopped from leaking out. I will let you pay for all the grievances I have endured these days. As for those two powerful human beings, just wait for me. After I get the inheritance from the ancient immortals, I will definitely kill you. Wan Tiansheng gritted his teeth and thought, a hint of greed in his eyes. That is a relic with immortality, and the opportunities inside must be so great that he can't even imagine it. If he can get it, why would he worry about being suppressed by the gods and monsters? You know, since ancient times, those who have the opportunity to become immortals have all become famous and passed down through the ages. Soon, a rumbling sound of footsteps was heard, and the giants moved towards the south. This spiritual spring is extraordinary. Just taking a sip, I feel full of energy. My limbs are filled with strength, and a sense of clarity surges through my limbs. Xiongda drank a mouthful of the spring water in front of him and said in shock. After hearing this, others came over to have a drink and found that it was just as Xiongda said. This spiritual spring is not simple. I seem to have seen it in ancient books before, but I still need to confirm its source. Chu Yin murmured, as if she had thought of something. Her facial features were like those of a lotus, delicate as water. When people saw her, they couldn't help but feel a desire to protect her. At this moment, after more than half a month of fighting, the heroic spirit between Chu Yan's brows blossomed even more, and coupled with her beautiful and haggard face, she was like a female general going to war, who was as brave as any man. Chu Yan held a silver-white spear in his hand and thrust it forward. In an instant, a burst of spear force swept across the jungle, opening up a path and moving forward. When the others saw this, they were not surprised. They followed suit, as if they were used to it. Tianyuan Waterfall. According to legend, it can only be born in ancient mountains that have been filled with abundant spiritual energy for tens of millions of years. If you can soak in it for half a day, it will not only have the effect of cleansing your marrow and meridians, but also greatly improve your own cultivation. Chu Yan saw the waterfall in front of her. Her beautiful eyes were a little shocked, and she explained. Chapter 207. Tianyuan Waterfall, Tomato Beef Brisket, 3,000 words. It can cleanse the marrow and veins, and also improve cultivation? Hiss! What a heaven-defying spiritual spring this is. Ximing's mouth opened slightly, with a hint of surprise in her beautiful eyes. After hearing this, the others were also shocked, and their bodies trembled for a moment. They did not expect that they would be so lucky to encounter such a heaven-defying opportunity. There's a whole waterfall here. Doesn't that mean it's all ours? Xiongda opened his eyes wide, as if he had thought of something, and said excitedly. Even Lu Dezhu, who was used to seeing rare treasures, had his eyelids twitching at this moment. In his eyes, these were all money. You know, in the outside world, this small bottle of spiritual spring would be sold at a sky-high price, and its value is extraordinary. It is said that there was an auction record that once sold for tens of millions of spiritual stones. And here, there's a waterfall. Wang Ting also swallowed his saliva. He had never seen such a scene before. Chao Li's eyes were also extremely fiery, staring at the waterfall in front of him. Then let's go clubbing. Xiongda stepped forward impatiently, ready to take off his coat and jump in. Wang Tung, who was standing by, grabbed him and said coldly, St. Chu hasn't spoken yet. If anything unexpected happens, you won't survive even with these few lives. Chu Yan nodded, glanced around, her beautiful eyes flickering as she slowly said, the Tianyuan Waterfall hasn't reached its most mature state yet. Ancient records state that the Tianyuan Waterfall, in its full state, is no different from a golden liquid, containing terrifying energy. At this moment, the Tianyuan Waterfall has not yet fully transformed. It only has a faint golden glow. However, this also means that it will complete the transformation in the next few days. By then, the effect of the Tianyuan Waterfall will be hundreds of times stronger than it is now. If we pollute it now, the transformation in a few days will be greatly reduced. Chu Yan glanced at Xiongda and added. When this was said, everyone nodded, their faces showing sudden enlightenment. So there is such a saying. No wonder Chu Yan didn't say anything just now. It turned out that she had thought of this. Phew. Fortunately, I almost jumped down. Fortunately, you held me. Xiongda patted his chest, his expression changed slightly, and said to Wang Tung beside him. Wang Tung snorted and didn't say much. Lu Dezhu, who was standing by, saw this and smiled. After spending these days together, we have become much more familiar with each other and are no longer as unfamiliar as we were at the beginning. So, how many days do we have to defend this place? Chao Li narrowed his eyes slightly and concentrated. Chu Yan didn't say anything, thinking and looking around. Strange, there are so many ferocious beasts around this place. Why is it that there are so few ferocious beasts in this area, so that this Tianyuan Waterfall has not been polluted until now? At this moment, Ximing, who had been silent all the time, spoke, with some confusion in her beautiful eyes. After hearing this, everyone was a little stunned. Yes, why are there no ferocious beasts around here? Were those anomalies? If Ximing hadn't said anything, they would have thought it was nothing. But once she said it, they suddenly felt that the journey had been a little too smooth. You're right. With the Tianyuan Waterfall here, there's no way there aren't monsters. In other words, there must be a reason behind the disappearance of these monsters. If there wasn't a powerful beast nearby that was in charge of the surrounding monsters and told them not to get close, then there must have been monsters from other realms that had already arrived here and killed all the monsters here. Chu Yan said slowly, a hint of vigilance appearing in her beautiful eyes. We came all the way here, but we didn't see a single demon beast. If there was a half-demon king demon beast, we would have sensed it long ago, and they wouldn't have let us come here. Xiongda said a little speechlessly. Then the only possible explanation is the second one. The ferocious beasts here have already been slain by the geniuses of other domains. Did they know we were coming here and simply didn't stop us? Chao Li also thought of it, and his eyes were very deep on his dark face. As soon as he finished speaking, The other people's expressions changed. They looked around vigilantly, with their weapons already drawn. After a long time, there was still no movement nearby. Occasionally, a breeze blew through the ancient leaves, as if it was just an illusion to them. Chu Yan's pretty face couldn't help but relax a lot. Her heart was relieved, and a hint of fatigue flashed at her eyes. Fighting day and night these days would tire anyone, let alone a woman like her. Being able to persist to this extent is already several times stronger than other men. It seems that this must be my illusion. For the next few days, we will stay here and rest for a while, and wait for the transformation of Tianyuan Waterfall in a few days. Chu Yan said softly, looking towards Tianyuan Waterfall with some longing in her eyes. If she could absorb the full power of the heavenly spring waterfall, her strength would surely soar. Where are we going to be stationed then? The Overlord has already parted ways with us. We are few in number, so we need to find a secluded and safe place. I see that there seems to be a palace inside the waterfall, and the spring water is shimmering and reflecting the cave. I believe there must be some secret inside. After some decision, the group decided to go to the depths of the waterfall. Not bad. It seems you have a little talent for swordsmanship. Looking at the swordsmanship of the man in white in front of him, Su Li's eyes showed a hint of shock, but he still pretended to be calm. Nangong Chen put away the zixiao in his hand, shook his head, with some disappointment in his eyes. It turned out that his talent in swordsmanship was only a little bit. He felt that his sword practice had been going smoothly recently. Was it just his imagination? Could it be that Su Li was lying to him? Then, Nangong Chen looked at the beauty beside him with some suspicion in his eyes, but did not say much. When Su Li saw this, the corners of her mouth lifted slightly, and there seemed to be some joy in her ice-blue eyes. The little bit of talent she just mentioned was naturally false. This monster had mastered the sword intent in just 20 days. She was shocked. Now that she could dampen his enthusiasm, she naturally had to suppress him. Otherwise, it would be bad to let him be too proud. I'm doing this for his own good, he. Su Li thought contentedly, glanced at him quietly, and seeing that he didn't care, she said lightly, "We haven't eaten anything today." Seeing Su Li's beautiful face and speaking seriously, Nangong Chen felt a little uncomfortable in his heart, and there was a smile in his eyes. Was it someone who said before that he had been fasting for a long time and had no interest in eating? During this period of time, I was completely captivated by the food I cooked myself. From the beginning, I was a bit timid and reluctant to give it back, but now I am like a kitten, urging my poop scooper to feed me on time every day. Nangong Chen seemed to be able to imagine Su Li wearing a sexy, made cat-girl dress, revealing a hint of whiteness on her chest and charming curves. Every day when it was time for dinner, she couldn't wait to knock on the floor and look at him with a proud expression. As the saying goes, if you want to conquer a woman, you have to conquer her stomach. Nangong Chen firmly believes in this. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen raised an inexplicable smile and stretched out his hand. The next moment, a variety of ingredients appeared in the void, including some Taishu Alongicorn, Qingling eagle, dragon bloodline. These are all first-class treasures, which he has preserved very well. They are placed in a storage space and sealed in an ice coffin that has been there for tens of thousands of years. If others knew about it, they would be extremely shocked. Nangong Chen picked out some random dishes and decided what he wanted to eat. His eyes sparkled as he murmured, "In that case, today we'll have beef brisket with tomatoes and braised dragon bloodline's head. Then a large pot." No, a cauldron was sacrificed. In an instant, a brilliant fire bloomed from within the double pupils, igniting a raging fire. Su Li was not surprised. Nangong Chen had been cooking like this these days. She was thinking about the name of the dish Nangong Chen had just mentioned. Tomato beef brisket, braised dragon bloodlion's head. She seemed to have never heard of these names, but her eyes were still burning with anticipation. The dishes Nangong Chen prepared these days completely overturned her perception and made her doubt what kind of clear soup and water she had been eating since she was a child. In the outside world, as the perspective switched, everyone saw this scene again and couldn't help but sigh, even though they had seen it many times in the past few days. It's time for the pupil master to cook again. I'm really looking forward to it. I wonder what kind of dish he'll make this time. Yes, the dishes he's been making these days are all things I've never seen in my life. Not even the ones in Zhuaxian Pavilion have seen. I don't know what's going on with the brain of someone with double pupils, but he can come up with so many bizarre dishes. Even I have to admit he's better than me. Those with double pupils are truly extraordinary creatures. I've never seen any genius interested in cooking, and yet, despite cultivating to such an incredible level, they can still cook so skillfully. Everyone present couldn't help but sigh, with some surprise in their eyes. During this period, other geniuses from the Xintian domain, even in the periphery, were still searching for monsters to hunt, frantically looking for opportunities to improve themselves. The endless fighting along the way was so thrilling to watch. Whenever the perspective switches to the person with double pupils, the style of the painting changes. The two of them are either practicing swordplay, chatting about love along the way, or cooking delicious food. In short, it was like they were really on vacation. Even their cultivation was done in their spare time, and more time was spent on the things just now. This made everyone eat their fill of dog food, and even the supporters of those with double pupils went from making excuses at the beginning to helpless silence later. Chapter 208, Top-Notch Cooking Skills, Inhumane Operation. It's not that they don't want to say something for those with double pupils, but there really is nothing left to say. They had previously speculated that after a period of relaxation, the man with double pupils would work hard at training and hunting those ferocious beasts. However, they had never expected that he had remained so relaxed and at ease from the beginning until now. In Chu City, even the boss behind Zhuaxian Pavilion was shocked when he saw the cooking skills of the man with double pupils. He personally announced that if the man with double pupils could come and teach the chef of Zhuaxian Pavilion for a month after he was released, he would give him a month's profit. When these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. Zhuaxian Pavilion is a top-end restaurant, and its monthly profit is ridiculously huge, starting at least 20 fairy crystals. That is 2 billion spirit stones. Of course, although it is highly unlikely that people with double pupils can go, many people still envy them and want to have the same cooking skills as them. The boss of Zhuaxian Pavilion also ordered all the chefs under his command to come and observe the cooking skills of the man with double pupils every day. Those chefs were very contemptuous at first, but after one day, their attitude changed instantly, and they treated Nangong Chen as a god. There were even some chefs who had sudden enlightenment and breakthroughs on the spot after watching the person with double pupils cooking. This became a hot topic in Xintian domain, and many people were shocked. In the void, those powerful beings saw this scene and sighed, not knowing what to say. They had already determined that this boy had chosen to give up competing with the other geniuses and had given up the second round, which also made many people a little disappointed. That genius's fame was not gained through fighting. Now that he is trying to survive in this situation, it will damage the reputation of their Xintian domain. What's more, although Overlord and Saint Lady Chu retreated to the periphery, they never gave up. This is the attitude that the geniuses of the Xintian realm should have. It seems that with this boy's heart of Taoism, even if he comes out safely after the first round, he is destined not to go far in the future. After all, no strong man grows up in a greenhouse. Some people shook their heads, their eyes filled with disappointment and regret. Why do I feel this guy is unreliable? Li Canghai stroked his beard and said speechlessly. This boy was indeed a little beyond his expectations, but it was just unexpected in other aspects. Bai Wudao was also a little confused and didn't know what to say. That's not right. Shouldn't this script be that after resting that day, the one with double pupils made rapid progress and hunted down monsters? What are you doing now? Are you really here to enjoy yourself? In Xinzong? And that cauldron, if I'm not mistaken, is a saint's weapon, a bronze cauldron, but now it's being used to cook. How extravagant. If I'm not mistaken about that flame, it should also be a strange fire. Damn, what a beast, what a delusion. Looking at the figure in the void, Bai Wudao felt like swearing. Does this kid know what those things are in his hands? Bai Wudao sighed for a long time. He didn't know what to say. At this moment, deep in his heart, a strong doubt emerged. If the silhouette I saw that day wasn't him, whose could it be? Was I really getting old, or was I seeing things wrong? Inside the immortal treasure house, Nangong Chen didn't know how much shock his cooking skills had caused to the outside world. After the two finished eating, they left and continued walking around the periphery. I didn't expect that after walking so much, I still haven't reached the end. Nangong Chen looked at the endless mountains in front of him and muttered to himself. During this period, to outsiders, it seemed like he was on vacation, but in reality, the 9 Sky Star Array had already been deployed to an area of more than 500 miles. With just a thought from him, all living things in this 500-mile area, whether in the core or the periphery, would be annihilated. But he was not satisfied. He wanted to see if, by the end, he could form a closed loop with the starting point and destroy the entire wilderness. Of course, if others knew of this idea, they would be horrified and call him a madman. Because this kind of thing has been against the harmony of nature since ancient times. Only the most evil people would resort to such means. But Nangong Chen didn't say that he was a good person. Besides, the number of aliens in this mountain range was ridiculously large. The reason why the Star Envoy asked them to come was probably because he wanted them to wipe out the aliens. By doing this, he can only be said to have fulfilled the Star Envoy's wish, so why not do it? Moreover, in the first round of trials, those who advanced to the second round would receive rewards. He was not sure about the details, but he just heard Li Qixin mention it when he was in the outside world. However, he also gained something during this period. Although he didn't know to what extent his sword skills had been cultivated now, he had a vague feeling that if he took out the human emperor sword that day, he would be able to exert even more terrifying power, far exceeding the previous sword. As for their cultivation, he and Su Li had both reached the peak of great power, and were only one step away from the Divine King realm. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen couldn't help but feel a little excited about what level of strength he would reach after reaching the God King realm. You know, the Divine King realm is a huge watershed, and it can be regarded as truly stepping into the ranks of the powerful in the Xintian realm. The ancient Divine Kings concentrated their spiritual power, spiritual image, and spiritual soul. Divine power, divine image, and divine soul are the three things pursued by practitioners. Divine power and divine soul are easy to understand. They mean that both strength and divine soul will be transformed in the body with an original energy that transcends spiritual energy and turned into another kind of peculiar power. The divine image is of vital importance, as it is related to your strength in the Divine King realm. Condensing the divine image, as the name suggests, is to condense the law of heaven and earth. The law of heaven and earth can be outlined and imitated. No matter whether you're a genius or an ordinary person, before you step into the Divine King realm, you have already thought of your own law of heaven and earth in advance. Most of them are depicted as monsters, magical weapons, or ancient immortals and gods. Of course, the depiction is conditional. It does not mean that you can depict anyone you want as the law of heaven and earth. It's your talent and strength that can support your outline. Generally speaking, the more powerful the existence, the stronger the strength and talent. For example, those with 5th grade qualifications, after entering the realm of God King, can only outline ordinary great beasts, but cannot outline those pure-blooded and king-blooded beasts. Of course, outlining a great beast is impressive in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the eyes of geniuses, it is simply not worth mentioning. There was once a person with 9th grade qualifications who sketched out a 9-leaf swordgrass, one of the 10 evils. It was extremely powerful and invincible. With his magic skills, he was able to crush other monsters of the same level. Of course, the benefits of the concentrated mind elephant are far more than these. If it can be combined with your own talents, your strength will grow explosively. It's like someone has a natural talent for spears, and the law of heaven and earth he draws out is a master of spearmanship. Then, when he summons the law of heaven and earth, he can widen the gap with others and control the law of heaven and earth better. The power he exerts is also extremely strong and can defeat the God King of the same level. It can be said that the law of heaven and earth that you condense after entering the realm of God King is extremely important and is related to your strength. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen couldn't help but think of those people who were crossing the sea. There were several figures who were extremely powerful and had already entered the realm of God King. And in the Xintian realm, Li Qixin and the woman from the Jiang family seemed to have also entered the realm of God King. This made him curious about what exactly the law of heaven and earth that they were condensing would be. He had also fought with those at the God King level, but those people were too weak. They died before they could even use the law of heaven and earth that they had condensed, and he was not able to test his limits at all. Even so, he still had a plan in his mind. If he removed the human emperor sword as his trump card, used all his magic skills, the secret of the journey and the god-level martial arts, and added the blessing of the chaos seed green lotus, he would at least be invincible in the God King realm. Of course, if the human emperor sword appeared, coupled with the supply of holy medicine from the Tianyuan spiritual tablet, even a saint would have to drink a pot of wine, not to mention a quasi-saint. Speaking of the Chaos Green Lotus vision, he could clearly feel that this vision could not be activated casually. For him, it still required a certain amount of consumption. For example, at his current state, even with all his strength, he could only activate it for about 10 minutes. But even so, he was very satisfied. The Chaos Green Lotus was really too abnormal. After it was opened, he clearly felt that he had made great improvements in all aspects. Especially he could control the terrifying Chaos Green Lotus to fight. I guess as my strength increases, the duration of the phenomenon will also be extended. Maybe one day it will be able to be open all the time. Nangong Chen thought to himself, his eyes flashing. Just then, the movement nearby caught his attention. Su Li, with his snow-white hair, suddenly kicked a huge rock beside him for some unknown reason. With a loud bang, the rock broke into pieces. Nangong Chen looked at her delicate face and raised his eyebrows. What's wrong? There's nothing nearby. Who made this Three-No guy angry? Su Li had no expression on her face. After hearing this, she hesitated for a moment before slowly saying, boring. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's mouth twitched. He didn't expect this to be the reason. He looked around and discovered the problem. Within a radius of 10 miles, there was not even a single alien appearing. Hiss! Could it be that they were killed by people from other domains? After all, The blood god cult's two men were bound to make quite a stir. If the other domains had any sense, they would definitely not choose to stay in the core and would definitely come to the periphery. There weren't many anomalies in the periphery to begin with. Previously, there would be 2 or 3 of them popping up on the road, but now there are none at all. No wonder Su Li was bored. After Nangong Chen figured it out, he looked at the gravel on the ground, shook his head, and felt heartbroken for 3 seconds. Then, Nangong Chen looked at the mountains ahead, as if he had discovered something. His pupils were dim and incomparably blazing as he locked onto a target. "Oh, it's them. What did you see?" Su Li asked quickly. "I've seen your opponent, but I won't tell you who it is yet." Nangong Chen said this playfully, keeping the audience in suspense and not saying it directly. After hearing this, Su Li's pretty snow-white face pouted slightly. Although she seemed expressionless, she was actually full of unhappiness. For a moment, her temperature dropped a lot. "Oh," Su Li said calmly and walked on her own. "If you don't want to tell me, then don't tell me. I don't want to know." Nangong Chen felt a chill all over his body, as if a human-shaped refrigerator was passing by him. He turned around and looked, feeling a little amused and helpless for a moment. A layer of frost had formed on the straight ground, and at the end of the frost, an ice-blue figure was walking. There is no doubt that Su Li is angry. Nangong Chen activated the Xing character secret, and the next moment, he came to Su Li's side. He said, "It's the giants from the wild territory, if I remember correctly." After hearing this, Su Li narrowed his eyes slightly, and a dangerous light flashed in his eyes. Needless to say, someone is going to be in trouble soon. Chapter 209, Demonic Poison Bee, Go out and comfort the one with double pupils. Another part of the mountains. A group of people were moving through the bushes at an incredibly fast speed, as if there was a ferocious beast chasing them from behind. Quick, hold your breath and concentrate. Transform your spiritual energy into Qi Gang. If you get hit by a needle, you're doomed. This is not an ordinary demonic poison bee. There's something strange about it. The leader shouted loudly, and the halberd in his hand fell back. A dazzling golden halberd light swept out, instantly destroying hundreds of demonic poisonous bees. This person is none other than Li Qixin. When the others heard this, they followed suit. The next moment, a faint barrier appeared on everyone's body, just when everyone was about to breathe a sigh of relief. There was a buzzing sound, and behind them, a group of black shadows swept over. After everyone saw it clearly, their pupils couldn't help but shrink. They instantly burst out with all their strength and turned into streams of light and rushed forward. Those black shadows were nothing but the devilish poisonous bees. There were so many of them, so densely packed, like a black wall. Wu Jian and the others were unable to react in time, and the previous acceleration also consumed a lot of spiritual energy. For a moment, their speed slowed down. At this moment, a demonic poisonous bee as big as a fist attacked Wu Jian directly. I saw that the barrier formed by spiritual energy was shattered in an instant by the spread of poisonous gas with a bang. When the others saw this scene, they were extremely shocked. They didn't expect that this would be useless to them. Li Qixin was also stunned. How is this possible? After he quickly reacted, he swung his spear towards Wu Jian and the others to help them out. Suddenly, the golden halberd light shot up into the sky and directly cut down hundreds of demonic poisonous bees. After seeing this, Wu Jian and others showed gratitude, sped up, and left the place. Phew, that was a close call. I almost got stung by a poisonous bee. Luckily, I ran fast. Lu Wuxin patted his chest and said timidly. After hearing this, Jiang Chen nodded, with a hint of luck in his eyes at having escaped a disaster. At first, they were looking at a sacred tree, but who would have thought that the nearby poisonous bees seemed to sense something? Their eyes flashed with ferocity, and they actually rushed straight towards them. They fled for several hours, increasing their speed to the limit, and only then did they escape these devilish poisonous bees. But after we left, it seems another group of people also entered this place. If I'm not mistaken, they are the Protoss. I guess they are here for this sacred tree. Li Muxiu seemed to have discovered something and said softly. Just as he was leaving, he used his divine eyes to look from afar and saw a group of people walking towards the sacred tree. They were the gods. Their characteristics were too iconic. A pair of white wings sprouted from their backs, a halo above their heads, and a faint divine presence in their eyes. When the others heard this, they were shocked. They didn't expect that the gods would also come. Soon, they let out a sneer. They knew it wouldn't be long before the other party would be chased out by the poisonous bees, unless there was some other way to deal with it. Ever since they parted ways with Saint Jiang and the others, they had been very cautious along the way, fearing that they would encounter the most powerful gods or demons. They even avoided the Buddha realm, which was not much different in strength from them. Now, they only have 6 or 7 people, and their combat effectiveness is far inferior to the other side's complete domain. What's more, because some time ago, the geniuses of 3 domains were directly destroyed when they saw Wen Shun and Wen Zhe on the ranking list, they became more certain that what Lu Dazhu said that day was indeed true. 2 quasi-saints had truly infiltrated their Xiantian realm. Of course, this also seemed to cause the geniuses of other domains to have an inexplicable hostility towards their human race. Many times, they competed with other domains for opportunities, but they had no choice but to give up because of the other party shouting. They could only hunt those aliens in the periphery, but fortunately, their ranking was not far behind. If nothing unexpected happened, the Overlord would be able to enter the second round directly after the first round. Li Qixin also sat cross-legged on the ground to rest. The non-stop escape just now was too exhausting for him, not to mention that he had to pay attention to take care of others. He subconsciously looked at the bracelet, and suddenly, a screen rose up. Ranked first, Wen Shun, Xiantian Realm, 567,000 points. Ranked second, Wen Zhe, Xiantian Domain, 455,400 points. Ranked third, Xian Xiangling, Burial Heaven Realm, 252,300 points. Although Li Qixin had expected this, he couldn't help but sigh every time he saw this scene. If Wen Shun and Wen Zhe weren't those 2 quasi-saints, how could they possibly have achieved such high scores? This also further confirmed that the thoughts in their minds were not wrong. The dominance brought by these 2 quasi-saints is too terrifying. When they fall in front of this group of geniuses, it is a complete dimensionality reduction attack. Even the third-place Protoss was still 200,000 points behind them. It seems that no one can shake their points in the end. It can be said that they have already secured first and second place. Even the gods who have dominated the list in the past have no power to compete, and they have to avoid these 2 saints. Li Qixin continued to look down, and soon he saw his ranking. Ranked 9th, Li Qixin, Xiantian Realm, 105,060 points. After seeing this, Li Qixin was relieved. Fortunately, it had not dropped during this period, but had increased a lot, although it was not his own efforts. Then, he continued to read and saw Jiang Yingwei, who was ranked 12th. This made him a little shocked. She was just a woman, but she could make it into the top 20. What would happen if she had help from others? I'm afraid it's more than enough to break into the top 10. Thinking of this, Li Qixin felt more and more that the moon goddess was probably not a simple person. It could be seen from the fact that she escaped from the hands of the 2 quasi-saints that day. Ranked 15th, Chu Yan, Xiantian Domain, 73,500 points. When he saw that Chu Yan's ranking was still lit, Li Qixin breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that their team is fine. Then, he continued to look down and saw Nangong Chen and Su Li, who were ranked around 50th, and their points were only over 10,000. Li Qixin's face showed some regret. It seemed that the other party's high score on the first day was probably just luck. However, being able to break 10,000 points also meant that the other party had tried his best. This made him think of Yu Shun, who was also alone, but her score was higher than that of Nangong Chen and the others. It seems that there is a huge gap between the geniuses. If he and the Moon Goddess were compared to the first-tier geniuses, then the man with double pupils and the Ice Phoenix Goddess should only be considered the second tier. Of course, Li Qixin didn't mean to look down on them. On the contrary, they were able to achieve this, which was beyond his expectation. You know, Brother Nangong had provoked many powerful enemies before, and he also advised them not to show up in the Immortal Treasures and find a random place to hide. But the other party did not listen and chose to go all out, getting 10,000 points. This proves that Brother Nangong is proud and has his own ideas. What's more, he is still young, much younger than Li Muxiu, and now he has entered the second gear. It can only be said that his future potential will be limitless. Of course, if Li Qixin was in the outside world at this moment and saw what Nangong Chen had done along the way, he probably wouldn't have said this. Full strength? What the hell? Full strength are you here to travel? This time, it's ultimately our fault. If he hadn't left the team, I'm afraid we would have had 2 more spots in the second round. It's all my fault for believing what those 2 traitors said. Li Qixin muttered to himself, a flicker of self-blame in his eyes. Brother Nangong must be very sad. After the first round is over, we must comfort him. He is still young and has a long way to go. At this moment, it was so quiet here that one could hear a pin drop. Moreover, the others were all cultivators with extraordinary hearing, and they could hear Li Qixin's whisper very clearly. After hearing this, his expression changed slightly, and his mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts. These days, they have heard Li Qixin say this a lot. At that time, they had not thought that Wen Shun and Wen Zhe were actually 2 quasi-saints who had sneaked in. After all, they were also somewhat responsible for not standing firmly on Li Qixin's side at that time. Thinking of this, some people showed a hint of guilt in their eyes, such as Lu Wuxin and Wu Jian. Jiang Che, on the other hand, had a calm look in his eyes, and didn't feel anything. He had been in the astronomical pavilion before, and had accidentally provoked someone who had beaten him and seriously injured him. Should he still feel sorry for the other person? It's good enough that you don't hold a grudge. When people outside heard this sound, they were a little confused at first, but after they realized what was happening, they couldn't hide the smiles on their faces and burst into laughter. What did they hear? Li Qixin actually said that people with double pupils are very sad. They were sure that they shouldn't have believed the treacherous man's words at first. After all, they had been instigated by him at that time. But they reacted strongly to the words that came later. How could they not know what the double pupil person had been doing these days? He'd been flirting with people, not doing his job, and even forcibly changed the style of this immortal treasure show into a food show. I don't know if I'm happy, but I'm definitely not sad that the other party is thoughtful enough to do something. I'm dying of laughter. I wonder what Overlord will think when he finds out what the double pupil man has been doing during this period. Ha! Even though Overlord really doesn't know what the person with double pupils has been doing during this period, he said seriously that he wanted to comfort the person with double pupils. Please forgive my insincere smile. But to be honest, Overlord is a really good guy. Having said that, I'm still looking forward to seeing how wonderful his face will be when he comes out and learns about all this. Everyone smiled and laughed. Chapter 210. Killing the Female Giant, Zhao Lei's Word. In the void, when Li Songhai saw this scene, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Songhai is a good kid in every way, but never mind, just let him be. It's not me who's embarrassed anyway. Bai Wu Dao also had a smile in his eyes and said, "You, the Li family kid, are quite interesting." Soon, the projection perspective switched again, coming to the perspective of the man with double pupils and the Ice Phoenix Goddess. "Human, how dare you come here alone? How brave. I'm so lucky. The king asked me to wait here, and there's an unexpected surprise." Ha ha! In the picture, the two female giants laughed loudly. Their eyes were extremely fiery, as if they were sizing up their prey, and sticky saliva was already flowing out from the corners of their mouths. In front of her was an ice-blue figure, standing there quietly, her beautiful face expressionless, looking at them coldly, holding a white jade sword, like a female sword fairy descending to earth. When everyone saw this scene, their pupils shrank slightly, and they took a breath of cold air. Is such a huge body really something a human can possess? When they were crossing the sea before, they only felt that the other party was huge, but they did not expect that when they saw it up close, the oppressive feeling of more than 10 meters was really like a ferocious beast standing there, which brought endless shock to people. Why is the Ice Phoenix Goddess here alone? Where is the one with double pupils? Yeah, where are those with double pupils? How can the Ice Phoenix Goddess face these two giants alone? From the tone of these two female giants, it seems that the Ice Phoenix Goddess took the initiative to find them. But there are two of them. If the one with double pupils is not here, how will the Ice Phoenix Goddess deal with it alone? Everyone looked at the scene with great worry in their tone. Nausea. When Su Li saw them like this, her dark eyebrows slightly frowned, her beautiful eyes frosted, and she spoke in a cold voice. The next moment, she didn't say anything more and swung her sword directly. Suddenly, a phantom of an ice phoenix appeared behind her, and an extremely cold chill as cold as the 9 heavens burst out from her body, turning the area within a radius of 10 miles into frozen soil. Seeing such a huge force, the two female giants immediately realized that something was wrong, and their ugly, dark faces couldn't help but look solemn. Oh, the tiny human race actually has some abilities. But a genius like you is definitely delicious, with delicate skin and tender meat. The relatively tall, female giant sneered, her huge eyes filled with greed, as if what was in front of her was delicious food. Mine, all mine. The female giant, who is usually relatively short, saw Su Li rushing towards her, pulled out the huge spear on her back, with a crazy look on her face, and the aura of the peak powerful realm burst out. She took the initiative to attack, aiming at the nimble figure. The veins on her giant hand bulged as she threw the spear, weighing 10,000 pounds straight out at an incredible speed, like a meteor falling to the ground. Boom! This huge force was so terrifying that a sonic boom sounded directly in the void. If an ordinary powerful person at the peak of the realm were to be hit by this attack, he would probably be smashed into a bloody mist and would not have any room to resist. Su Liu's sword fell, her white hair fluttered, her ice-blue eyes were extremely cold, and the ice phoenix mark between her eyebrows was shining, like the Ice Queen descending. Boom! An extremely powerful sword light suddenly burst out. The sword light was extremely bright, like a bright moon in the sky, dazzling and eye-catching. Its terrifying power seemed to be able to tear the void apart. At the same time, countless ice bloomed along with the sword force, like ice crystal flowers blooming in the far north. The huge spear now looked so pale and powerless in front of the sword light. With a loud bang, the bronze spear was chopped into pieces, but the sword's force did not decrease at all and rushed straight towards the short female giant. Tear! The next moment, the head of the short female giant flew into the air, blood gushed out, and with a bang, the headless body fell to the ground. I saw the head lying in a pool of blood, with a look of horror in its eyes. When the tall female giant saw this scene, she looked as if she had seen a ghost, with horror in her eyes. "Oh, who are you?" she asked in a trembling voice, her hands clenching secretly. She didn't understand how such a weak human could unleash such terrifying power. "The one who killed you." Suli glanced at her with cold eyes. The next moment, she stretched out her bare hands, and the sword flew into the air with a flash of cold light. When the tall female giant saw this, she felt a sense of danger rising in her heart. A look of panic appeared on her face, and she quickly ran away. Her body was so huge that every time she took a step, the entire ground shook slightly. At the same time, this is also the disadvantage of giants. Puff! The next moment, the jade sword pierced through her eyebrows directly. In an instant, the tall female giant's life force disappeared rapidly. Her eyes gradually became dull, and with a loud bang, she fell to the ground. Seeing this, Su Li snorted and took all the points from their bracelets. Outside, when everyone saw this scene, they looked at each other in disbelief. Those two giants, just like that, died? It all felt a little unreal to them. The oppressive feeling just now made them feel afraid, even though they were separated by a projection. It could be imagined how powerful the giants in this wild area are. After a long time, these people's expressions relaxed. As expected of the Ice Phoenix goddess, she is truly the most unrivaled female enchantress of the time. Yes, with this goddess here, my Xintian territory will surely prosper. I've only ever seen that superb sword technique from the elders of the sword, Dao Holy Land. I never thought the Ice Phoenix goddess could also perform it. Everyone was amazed at Su Li's terrifying strength. In the void, if I'm not mistaken, that should be the perfect sword intent, right? A powerful man spoke after a long time. That's right. It's the perfect sword intent. Moreover, this woman seems to have cultivated the rudiments of the sword path, a kind of ice and snow sword intent. Not far away, an old man wearing a straw hat spoke in a low voice. The aura around him was very terrifying, and his sword intent was overwhelming, giving people a strong sense of oppression. When everyone saw this person, they couldn't help but be surprised. This person is none other than the current Saint Master of the Northern Sword Holy Land, Zhao Lei. His saintly cultivation combined with his terrifying sword intent places him at the top of the Xintian domain, an existence no one dares to provoke. The reason why everyone was surprised was because the Northern Sword Holy Land was located in northern Shenzhou, quite a distance away from central Shenzhou. No one expected Zhao Lei to come here in person. Greetings to the Northern Sword Saint. The powerful one with the strength of the sword sect greeted him respectfully. When it comes to the best sword practice in the world, in the hearts of countless sword practitioners, it is undoubtedly the Northern Sword Holy Land, the leader of the 4 major sword holy lands. And Zhao Lei is naturally loved by sword cultivators. Zhao Lei waved his hand, indicating that everyone did not need to be polite. He turned around and looked at the projection in the void. At this moment, everyone realized that Saint Zhao Lei seemed to have spoken highly of the Ice Phoenix goddess. Hiss, the embryonic form of the sword path. In other words, if this woman doesn't die, she will definitely become a saint in the future. Someone uttered incoherently, eyes filled with shock. Having the prototype of Tao means having a path to become a saint, and the road ahead will be smooth and unobstructed. It is not an exaggeration to say that you have locked onto the sainthood. When the others heard this, their eyes widened in disbelief. Is the Taoist partner of this double-pupiled person also so gifted? What's going on? 2 saints in one family? If she comes out, you can let her come to the Northern Sword Holy Land. I can accept her as my personal disciple. At this time, Zhao Lei stood with his hands behind his back and said calmly, "What? The Holy Master of the Northern Sword Holy Land actually accepted her as his personal disciple?" Zhao Lei's vision has always been extremely harsh. There's a monster with 9th grade talent who wanted to learn sword, but he was still ruthlessly rejected. Over the years, they had never heard that Zhao Lei was going to recruit disciples. Is the Ice Phoenix goddess's talent really so incredible? Everyone looked at the beautiful figure in the picture with complicated expressions. It's a pity that she's already the Taoist companion of a person with double pupils. If nothing changes in half a year, she'll probably die young. After all, the person with double pupils has provoked the venerable. Thinking of this, They showed regret on their faces. The sword sect elder from earlier even hurriedly advised, Saint Master Zhao, no. That person with double pupils. I'm putting this right here. No matter who she offends, as long as she enters my holy land, she will be my personal disciple. I'm never afraid of anyone. I only believe in the sword in my hand. No need to say more. Zhao Lei knew what he wanted to say and interrupted him directly. When everyone saw this scene, they looked at each other, not knowing what to say. After patrolling around, I thought there was a trap, but I didn't expect there were only 2 left. I killed them too early. I should have left one alive. Nangong Chen appeared from nowhere, shook his head, and looked at the 2 bodies lying on the ground with some regret. After hearing this, Suli was stunned for a moment, then lowered her head and muttered softly, I don't know. And they are too weak. One strike of the sword will kill them. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's mouth twitched. If these 2 giants were still alive, they would probably spit out blood and commit suicide after hearing this. It's nothing, just a small matter, Nangong Chen said indifferently, standing with his hands behind his back, his deep pupils scanning the surroundings. Logically speaking, our movement would definitely attract their attention, and since the giants haven't appeared yet, they must be dead or have run away. From the tone of their voices, it's likely they didn't die, but escaped. As for the fact that the entire giant tribe in their wild domain came there, they must have found some extraordinary opportunity. Soon, Nangong Chen looked toward the flat ground where there were footprints that were larger than humans, densely packed and crisscrossed. It seems they are very anxious. It must be a good thing. Let's go and take a look. Nangong Chen raised the corner of his mouth and spoke, stepping into the void and moving forward along the footprints. With just a little information, one can make a rough inference. If Wan Tiancheng were here, he would be so shocked that he would be speechless. Suli looked at him, her beautiful eyes shining, and followed him. This reminded her of her childhood, when people always said that the young master of Tianyuan Mansion was a genius who could create something astonishing. At that time I thought it was fake, but now it seems that I was naive. He really has a good brain. Chapter 211. Ruins emerge, giants arrive. 2 days later, deep in Tianyuan Waterfall. This place is extremely spacious and full of spiritual energy. It is the core of the Tianyuan Waterfall. Over tens of millions of years after being baptized by the world, it has gradually formed a blessed land, which can be regarded as a holy place for cultivation. On the stone wall, not far away, there is an ancient bronze door. The door is covered with vines and weeds. It can be seen that no one has set foot here for countless years. Boom! At this moment, a ray of fairy light burst out from the bronze door, and countless mysterious yellow auras spread, as if some terrifying existence was about to awaken. At the same time, a strong shaking feeling came from the ground. Countless ferocious beasts within a radius of 100 miles felt it. They looked towards this place, and their blood-red eyes actually regained a brief moment of clarity. But soon, a flash of bright red appeared, and the beasts returned to their violent state. Of course, the people who felt the movement most strongly were Chu Yin and others stationed here. What's going on? Is it going to be an earthquake? Xiong barely managed to maintain his balance, his eyes wide open. The expressions of the others changed, and they were also trying to maintain their balance. Look, it's that door that's causing the trouble. Lu Deju's pupils shrank slightly, and he said in disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. After hearing this, everyone looked towards the bronze portal with shocked expressions on their faces. Are we leaving here? It seems like something is about to awaken. Mysterious energy overflows, and immortal light reaches the sky. Could this be a relic? Their expressions were complicated, and they all started to guess. At this moment, Shimeng seemed to have thought of something and said, I think I have cracked the rune above. Her purple hair fluttered down, and her beautiful eyes shone with light. What does it say? Chu Yin asked quickly, and the others also looked over here. Ancient immortal. I've seen in the ancient books in the Holy Land. An ancient immortal must have been buried here. The memories in Shimeng's mind became clearer and clearer. When these words were spoken, everyone was stunned, and then a surge of excitement filled their hearts. Ancient immortals. Those are ancient immortals. Although they have never seen immortals, they also know that immortals are beyond the world. Even saints are as small as ants in front of them, not to mention that these are ancient immortals. Behind that portal, there must be an incredibly heaven-defying opportunity that could have attracted these ancient immortals to fight for it and cause them to perish here. Could it be that we accidentally stumbled upon an ancient immortal ruin? Xiong said excitedly, his mouth watering. The others also showed joy on their faces, looking at the bronze door with extremely fiery eyes. They knew that this might be their only chance to change their fate. Throughout history, which opportunity to bring an immortal wasn't amazing? At this moment, only Chu Yan's beautiful eyes were looking there with a complicated look. For some reason, within her body, she felt a mysterious thought watching over her. And the closer I get, the clearer the feeling becomes. Soon, the shaking feeling gradually disappeared, and everything seemed to return to calm. The bronze door was partially open, waiting for someone to open it. What do you mean? Do you want to go in? I don't know who it was, but he swallowed and asked tremblingly. The others also looked at Chu Yan. Enter. Chu Yan said affirmatively, slowly walking towards here and there. After hearing this, Xiongda and others followed closely, feeling very excited. At this moment, countless people in the outside world were very excited when they saw this scene. Oh my God, I just randomly camped in a place, and now I'm told that there's an ancient immortal buried there. Doesn't that mean this is an ancient relic? Sigh, what a treasure trove of wealth. Saint Chu and the others are so lucky. I'm so envious. Since ancient times, opportunities with the word immortal in them can be counted on one hand. I wonder what this one could contain. Everyone's face was filled with joy and curiosity. After all, this was an ancient immortal ruin, something they had never seen in their entire lives. Now that he appeared before their eyes, they were naturally excited. Moreover, this is beneficial to the monsters in Xintian realm. In the void, those powerful people also smiled and nodded with some satisfaction. The descendants of some of them are the disciples in the picture. For example, Lu Daju's father, who is currently holding his large belly, said with a grin, "What luck! It's really thanks to the blessings of the other geniuses that my son has been able to encounter such a great opportunity." The elders of Qilin Gate also had smiles on their faces and looked at Chao Li in the picture with admiration. It is estimated that after this immortal collection is over, Chao Li's position as the Holy Son can be officially confirmed. Meanwhile, at Howren Pavilion, Elder Xiong frowned tightly, looking at the scene with Xiongda's mouth corners almost raised to the sky, and he felt something was wrong. Isn't this all going too smoothly? I didn't see a single monster when I came here, and now there's such a big commotion. Are all the other monsters within a few miles dead? And why haven't we come yet? The other powerful men cast envious glances at these people. They gritted their teeth and thought that if they had known earlier, they should have let their children follow Saint Chu. If one could get a piece of this ancient immortal ruins, he would probably be very successful in the future. Thinking of this, they sighed and looked regretful. Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Ancient immortal ruins hiss. Such a heaven-defying opportunity actually appeared in the immortal treasure. What a shame. These evildoers in Zhongshenzhou are about to take advantage of us. I don't even know where the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess are right now. It's all the fault of those two quasi-saints of the Blood God cult. If it weren't for them, the Crown Prince and his men would have had a chance. Those civil and military officials shook their heads and said, at this moment, they were eager to go in and tell the prince and the others that there was a heaven-defying opportunity here. Even Nangong Chen frowned, unable to understand why the other party's luck was so good. What a pity. If my son and his friends could get this opportunity, their strength would surely reach a new level. Nangong Chen shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Just as Chu Yin was about to open the bronze door, a deafening sound rang out from outside the waterfall. You human ants, you're trying to spy on this king's opportunity? You're courting death. Outside the waterfall, more than a dozen huge figures flashed, and the next moment, they rushed in. They were huge, more than 10 meters tall, and their aura was very powerful. As for the man in the lead, there was a huge amount of blood, energy, surging in the void between his flesh and blood, which was quite spectacular. And they're the giants of Mongyu. And the man who just spoke is their leader, Wan Tiansheng. Wan Tiansheng narrowed his eyes slightly, emitting a clear coldness, and looked down at them like a poisonous snake. Such a cold gaze made many people shudder. Give it back to you. It's obvious that we were here first. Chao Li said in a cold voice, his dark features revealing a tenacity. Chu Yan and others felt as if they were facing a great enemy. They looked at them with fear in their eyes and some shock in their hearts. Unexpectedly, people from their giant tribe also came here. How ridiculous, you weak ants. We already know everything you did since you came here 2 days ago. Have you not noticed that there isn't even a single strange thing around here? Because this place has been cleaned out by us long ago. We have even killed all the living creatures in the nearby areas. At this time, a short male giant walked out among the giants and spoke with a tone of disdain. After hearing this, the other giants also looked at them with a teasing look and a smile on their lips. Do you really think you humans are the first to arrive here? The last domain that came here was killed by us a long time ago. Didn't you notice the blood on the ground? It was only recently stained. As for why there are no corpses, it's because we ate them one bite at a time. As soon as these words were spoken, Chu Yin and others' faces changed, and they felt as if they were struck by lightning. They didn't expect that everything that happened here was part of the other party's plan. In other words, I fell into their trap from the very beginning. No wonder there hasn't been even a single alien here. It turns out they were all killed by them long ago. At this moment, there was also a huge uproar in the outside world. When they saw the scene before them, their pupils shrank slightly, and they were a little bit disbelieving. After they realized what was happening, a feeling of despair surged in their hearts. The only exit here has been blocked by the giants, which means that today we have to fight to the death. And they, the Xiantian territory, only had 6 people, while the other side had more than a dozen. The difference in numbers was simply too huge. Besides, Overlord and Moon Goddess, those two are not here, who can compete with the other side's leader. These giants are incredibly cunning. They've set a trap, waiting for us to take the bait. I'm dead. If I had known this earlier, I shouldn't have come here. What should we do? They have so many people, and we only have 6 of us. Everyone looked at the scene with extremely worried eyes. And in the void, the faces of those powerful people also changed, and they secretly said, "Oh no." The expressions of some powerful people were extremely gloomy. The geniuses in the picture were their disciples. Anyone who dies will be a huge loss, not only for them, but also for the entire Xiantian domain. Chapter 212, Failure and Alone. When Fun Dao, who was hiding in the dark, saw this scene, he almost laughed out loud. His eyes were full of gloating. It's good to die, it's good to die. It can be regarded as a burial companion for that loser Yi Guqing. Yi Guqing, you are so lucky that so many people will be buried with you. In that case, we'll leave the ruins to you, and we won't accompany you anymore. Chu Yin spoke, gritting her teeth, and then she wanted to take the others away. Seeing this, Wan Tiansheng waved his hand and sent a few people over to stop them. His expression was playful as he asked, "Did I let you go?" The other giants also looked at them with greed in their eyes, their saliva almost dripping. They haven't eaten humans for a long time, not to mention that these are geniuses among humans, who are 100 times more delicious than ordinary humans. In their eyes, Chu Yin and the others were like a tonic. They were mouth-watering. Chu Yan's face turned cold. She didn't expect the other party to not bite at all. She originally wanted to use this as an opportunity to escape. After all, compared with life, the so-called ancient immortal relics are not worth mentioning at all. She could still tell this clearly. If you submit to us, we can still give you a quick death. After all, we are very particular and cannot bear to see our food lose its freshness. Juju sneered and looked at them greedily. That makes some sense. Why don't you just commit suicide? Wan Tianqing nodded, looked at them, and said thoughtfully. His gaze was condescending, as if he were looking down at a reptile. After all, in his eyes, the only one the human race could fear was the one in armor. And he is not here. It is not easy for them to kill him with just a few people. Even the human woman who looked relatively powerful among this group of people was nothing more than a larger ant in his eyes. After all, she was not even as powerful as the God King. She posed no threat to him. After hearing this, Chao Li and others' faces turned cold and murderous intent appeared in their eyes. As the evildoers of Xiantian territory, how could they have ever suffered such humiliation? Chu Yan's beautiful eyes were cold, and her delicate and beautiful face was full of heroism. A tremendous gun intent burst out from her. At the same time, an extremely domineering silver spear appeared in her hand. The gun body was engraved with ancient runes, and a cold light flashed on the tip of the gun, as if it could suppress the entire sky. Even the saint soldiers are far inferior to this feeling of oppression. This is also Chu Yan's 9th grade divine body, the Sky Spear. She has had such a magic gun in her body since the day she was born. When the Sky Spear was summoned, even the sky changed. Everyone, listen up, follow me, and fight your way out. Chu Yan held the Sky Spear in his hand, the tip of the spear like a dragon, pointing at the group of giants, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Yes, Wang Tung, Chao Li, Lu Dazhu, Xiongda, and Xi Ming all said in unison. Xiongda and Lu Dazhu were no longer as frivolous as they were at the beginning, and their faces were full of seriousness. Although Ximing is a woman, she now displays a spirit that is no less than that of a man. Wang Tong's cultivation burst out, his eyes were cold, and a divine light shone behind him, condensing into 2 pictures of yin and yang. The black fish flowed, the Taoist rhyme overflowed, and the aura was very terrifying. When a heavenly map appears, all things will be annihilated. Chao Li tore open his shirt, revealing his muscular muscles engraved with qilin patterns. The next moment, 2 horns grew on his head, and a powerful force burst out from his body. It actually transformed into a ferocious beast, the qilin, which was lifelike, as if the ancient sacred beast had come to life. The 2 of them took the lead in attacking and killing the leader, Wan Tiansheng. Upon seeing this, Wan Tiansheng's eyes flashed with fear, but there was still a hint of mockery on the corner of his mouth. He has some ability, but that's all. Since he came to Xinzang last time, he has seen too many geniuses, like a swarm of fish crossing the river. Among them, he has also seen those who are more amazing than these people. But the only thing is that none of them were defeated by him. In the void, the sky map shone with dazzling light, like a big sun in the sky, condensing powerful power and killing towards Wan Tiansheng. The Qilin that Xiaoli transformed into also had its horns glowing with light. It roared angrily, and the earth within a radius of 10 miles shook and the sky trembled. The Qilin's body was as huge as a mountain. Its horns shone with cold light, and it exuded terrifying pressure as it pounced towards Wan Tiansheng. The power unleashed by the combined attack of these two people was so great that even the 9 heavens would be torn apart, shaking the heavens and the earth. There was a hint of fear in the eyes of the giants. Obviously, these people could threaten them. They didn't expect that these weak humans could display such powerful strength. In the outside world, everyone was also excited when they saw this scene. Well, Wang Teng and Chao Li are indeed the demons of our human race. I'm afraid that even ordinary god kings can't resist the might they unleashed. It doesn't matter if they are numerous. We can still kill them and fight our way out. It seems that this so-called giant tribe is nothing more than that. Obviously, this attack from Chao Li and Wang Teng gave them great confidence. The previous sense of oppression from the giants was swept away. They believed that with this move, the leader of the giants would definitely die. In the void, those powerful beings also nodded with a hint of appreciation on their faces. Indeed, the little brat from Qilin's sect has such talent, and the lifelike Qilin he created has probably surpassed the sages of the past. This kid from the Wang family is not bad. At such a young age, he has already reached the great power realm and mastered such a powerful weapon as the heavenly map. His future is promising. Now it seems that these other domains are just like that. Obviously, they also believed that Xintian territory would win. This was also the first time in the past 20 days that they had seen them competing with the monsters from other domains. What happened before, when crossing the sea, made them mistakenly believe that the geniuses in other domains were all monsters. But they thought too much and really overestimated them. Do you think they can win? Bai Wu Dao asked, his face calm, his body filled with immortal energy, as if he was an immortal in the world. I can't win. If I'm not mistaken, the leader of the other giant tribe has already reached the realm of God King. The difference between a God King and a powerful being is like heaven and earth. Li Sanhai's eyes were sharp, and he could see details that ordinary people couldn't see at a glance. He paused. However, this is the first time that the Xintian domain's prodigy has competed with other domains. The people of the entire Xintian domain are watching. Even if they can't win, they have to win. They have reasons not to lose. If we lose this battle, it will be a huge blow to our Xintian territory. It is even possible that it will destroy the Dao heart of the next generation. After all, these kids represent the strongest geniuses in Xintian territory. After hearing this, Bai Wu Dao looked at him in surprise and then said slowly, "You are right, they can't lose." Then he shook his head and thought to himself, "But what can they use to win? The opponent is a top monster in the realm of God King. If he were placed in Xintian domain, he would be no less powerful than the Overlord. How could he be defeated so easily?" However, the next moment, Wan Tiansheng in the picture took action. A monstrous amount of blood and energy erupted from Wan Tiansheng's body, as if his body contained endless divine power. He stretched out his hands, and his giant hands, as big as tree trunks, directly and firmly grasped the pair of Qilin horns, preventing it from moving forward even a single step. When everyone saw this scene, they were stunned. They couldn't believe that the terrifying Qilin killing move was easily resolved by Wan Tiansheng. The Qilin transformed by Chao Li had some horror in his eyes, as if the giant in front of him was a ferocious beast. He could deeply feel the terrifying power hidden in the hands of the giant in front of him. It was simply indescribable and something he had never seen in his life. Boom! The next moment, Wan Tiansheng used both hands to lift up the Qilin and then swung it forward. The Qilin, which was as big as a hill, was like a cannonball, and under the force of that force, it smashed a big hole in the stone wall. This happened so quickly, in just a split second, that no one could react. Then, Wan Tiansheng stepped on the ground, and his thick giant feet landed, instantly raising a wave of air that swept across the 4 directions. In the void, the power of the sky map that exploded was also completely annihilated. Wang Teng was also affected by the huge wave. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards like a kite with a broken string. At this moment, on the stone wall, Chao Li had turned into a human form. His face was pale, his body was broken, blood was spilling, and he was seriously injured. It was obvious that he had completely lost his ability to fight. Chu Yin and others couldn't believe it when they saw this scene. In an instant, the two geniuses of the human race were defeated. At this moment, everyone outside was stunned, their eyes filled with fear. "This is defeat," someone said in a lost voice, while some did not react. "We underestimated this giant. His strength is truly terrifying." "Yeah, do we still have any hope of winning?" "This is completely on a different level." Everyone turned pale and murmured. In the void, those powerful beings fell silent when they saw this scene. The previous bold words were also severely destroyed by Wang Tianqing's attack. "We still have St. Chu. We still have hope." I don't know who said it at this moment. The eyes of these powerful men lit up. Yes, they also have St. Chu. Wang Tang Chaoli. When Lu Dazhu and others saw this, their eyes turned red and they rushed over quickly. Seeing Lu Dazhu and Shimeng going to treat their injuries, Xiongda stood where he was, clenching his fists. Even Wang Tang and Chaoli, who were at the peak of the great power realm, were defeated. How could he, who was at the middle stage of the great power realm, still win? At this moment, a strong feeling of powerlessness surged in his heart. He hated himself for being so weak. He shouldn't have come to participate in the immortal hidden ceremony. Now he had implicated other people. If others who are stronger than me come to participate, will this situation be changed? Suddenly, a beautiful voice sounded. "Xiongda, you go protect them. I'll take care of these giants." Xiongda looked over and saw Chu Yin already holding the sky spear and walking slowly towards Wang Tianqing. At this moment, in Xiongda's eyes, the thin figure looked like a female war goddess, standing there. "Interesting, you want to stop us alone?" Wang Tianqing smiled playfully and looked at her, who was alone. Chapter 213 Chu Yin versus Wang Tianqing. Outside, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank when they saw this scene. There were only 18 giants standing there with sneers on their faces. The wall of flesh that looked like connected mountains was intimidating. In front of them, Chu Yin held the sky spear in her hand, with a fierce spear intent, and her beautiful eyes revealed an indomitable spirit. Even her body, at this moment, was very small in front of this group of giants. Wang Tianqing had a playful look on his face. He wanted to see how this tiny bug could resist them. "Wang, are you going to kill them?" Juju looked at Wang Teng and the others with cold eyes and made a gesture of wiping his neck. Wang Tianqing shook his head and said, "With your clumsy hands and feet, my food will lose its freshness soon. It would be better for me to kill this human woman and eliminate their last hope." He looked at Chu Yin with extremely cold eyes. "Our king is still wise." After hearing this, Juju's eyes lit up and he sighed. The conversation between the two did not deliberately avoid other people, and their voices resounded throughout the cave. After hearing this, Wang Teng and others understood the other party's intention and their eyes were filled with anger. "Damn beasts, they still want to eat us. If it really comes to that, they won't get a single cent of our corpses." Charlie spat out a mouthful of blood and cursed. The others didn't say anything, but a look of determination flashed in their eyes. If they were defeated in the end, the worst that could happen was that they would self-destruct. They were the geniuses of a Xintian realm, and they also had backbone. I don't know how long Saint Lady Chu can hold on. If we want to fully recover, it will probably take some time. Wang Teng murmured, looking at Wang Tianqing with a fierce light in his eyes. After hearing this, Lu Dezhu and Xiongda also looked at Chu Yin, who was alone, with worried expressions. After Shimeng finished treating the two people, her pretty face looked a little weak. She found a place to sit down and remained silent. Obviously, she had heard what they said during the treatment just now. If he were here, would the end be different? Suddenly, a figure in white flashed through Shimeng's mind, and then she came to her senses and shook her head. Just now, from what they said, Wang Tianqing of the Giant Clan might have reached the level of God King. He is just an ordinary powerful man. How can he fight against him? Even if he comes, it might be of no use. Shimeng, you are so evil. Before you die, you still want to harm others? Shimeng lowered her eyes, slumped on her knees, and looked a little guilty. Chu Yin took a deep breath. Her snow-white chest rose and fell slightly, and then, with a determined look in her eyes, she rushed towards Wang Tianqing. She had just heard the conversation between Wang Tianqing and the other man, and she understood that she had no way out but to fight. If we win, there is still hope. If we lose, the whole army will be wiped out. Are you finally here? Let me see what your gun can do. Wang Tianqing murmured. He could feel that the gun in this human woman's hand was very extraordinary. Then he made a gesture, and the giants beside him retreated, leaving the two of them enough space to fight. With Chu Yan's shot, the battle between the two began immediately. Can Saint Lady Chu win? Someone was deeply shocked and lost his voice. When people on the street heard this, they were silent and did not respond. At this moment, they vaguely guessed that the leader of the giant tribe should be at the God King level. If he had not reached that level, he probably would not have been able to defeat Chao Li and Wang Tung so easily. Of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Who knows if there are other monsters among these giants? Saint Chu has not yet broken through to the level of God King. So how should she face these 18 giants? If nothing unexpected happens, the result is predictable. Where Overlord and the others? Why haven't they come yet? Someone couldn't bear to see the next scene and shouted loudly through gritted teeth. Overlord and his companions had already separated from Chu Yin and his companions over 20 days ago, and they were heading in different directions. The immortal treasure was so vast that even if they learned about it now and rushed over, they would probably have already left and forgotten about it. A genius shook his head and thought to himself. In the Chu family, Chu Shanha's eyes were red as he stared at the scene intently. At this moment, as Chu Yan's closest person, he was naturally the most uncomfortable person among those present. He also knew what was going to happen, but he still did not avoid it. This is the glory of the Chu family, not humiliation, and it is worth remembering by everyone in Xiantian domain. Everyone, show me. If I find out who turned around, I will punish them according to the family rules. Chu Shanha gritted his teeth and uttered almost every word with great majesty. After hearing this, the Chu family and others also responded loudly. Yes. Some clan mothers who had watched Chu Yin grow up were secretly wiping away tears at this moment, looking at the beautiful figure in the picture, tears flowing uncontrollably. They felt sorry for Chu Yin, who was so young, but had to go to Xianzong alone and face the monster from other realms. Now, it had come to a matter of life and death. She was just a child. She had always worked hard for the Chu family. Now she was over 20, as young as a child, but she had to die in front of them. On the other side, Chu Xing's eyes were red, and she sobbed a little. Sister, although Chu Yin usually scolded and beat him, he knew that it was all for his own good. Now that he saw Chu Yin was about to die, he was even more emotional. Chu Shanha, you beast, why don't you turn off this projection? Do you really want my sister to be tortured and killed by these beasts for everyone to see? Chu Xing looked at the middle-aged man in the lead, pointed at him, and almost shouted. When the others heard this, their eyes flickered as well. They felt sorry for what happened, but they didn't dare to say anything. The dead are the greatest. If we can retain a little dignity, it will be a respect for Chu Yin. What's more, at this moment, this projection is being watched by hundreds of millions of people, and everyone in the entire Xianzong is watching. If the projection is turned off, who will remember the glory of our Chu family? Who will remember what Saint Lady Chu did? You are such an ignorant child, and you're so disrespectful to your elders. It seems that you haven't been imprisoned long enough. Who wouldn't be saddened by the death of Saint Chu? I, an old woman, have watched her grow up, and I feel equally grief. I lament that our Chu family has lost such a gifted and extraordinary monster. But even so, as members of her clan, we should remain rational. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. It was Chu Ruchuan. Chu Ruchuan stood not far away, looking at them coldly, with an awe-inspiring look on his face, which was very hypocritical. Shut up, you hypocritical old thing. Who the hell are you? What do you know? You're always talking about family honor, but why don't you die for my sister? If you're truly heartbroken, then commit suicide today and be buried with my sister. Otherwise, stop barking like a dog. Chu Xing's eyes were filled with anger, and he cursed back. When these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect Chu Xing to dare to insult Chu Ruchuan. Chu Ruchuan was a little stunned by this scolding. After he realized what was happening, his face suddenly turned dark. She didn't dare to respond. If she was really put in a difficult position by this guy, she would lose more than she gained. Chu Ruchuan looked at him with cold eyes. A hint of murderous intent appeared in his eyes, but it was well hidden. When your sister dies, I'll see what you can still use to fight me. After Chu Xing finished cursing, he looked at Chu Shanha and saw that he was still unmoved, his eyes looking into the void, as if nothing had happened just now. Well, you're truly a good and conscientious clan leader. Chu Xing said this in a sarcastic tone, emphasizing the word patriarch. His face was calm, not as angry as at the beginning. He was obviously disappointed. He shook his head, looked at them sadly, and turned away. He was not as ruthless as them, and he could see his loved ones die in front of his own eyes. In the void, those powerful beings were also silent, having not expected such an outcome in the end. They looked at the young faces in the picture with some regret and felt a little sad. I'm afraid that after today, Xiantian territory will lose 6 top-level geniuses. At this moment, the 5 top forces, Qilin Gate, Howran Pavilion, Wang Family, Astronomical Holy Land, and Tianbao Pavilion, also saw this scene with red eyes. Even the forces in Li Qixin's team had serious expressions, without any trace of complacency. The immortal treasures were too dangerous. Who could tell if their genius would die in the next second? Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. This woman seems to be a friend of the Crown Prince. It is said that the Crown Prince and Crown Princess's places in the immortal treasure were given by this woman. Hiss. What a pity. It's such a shame. He died in the immortal treasure at such a young age, and even his body was buried in a foreign land. Alas, I don't know what the crown prince and the crown princess are doing. We must be careful. If we encounter these giants like them, we will be unable to escape. The civil and military officials sighed with mixed feelings. Wang Yuxuan and Zhou Wan'er, who were in the corner, were also a little sad when they saw this scene. I never thought that the woman I had met once in the Nine Heavens secret realm would end up like this. Although they had nothing to do with each other, the other party had been kind to Nangong Chen, so they still had a good impression of him and felt a little reluctant. Chapter 214. Transforming into a gun, the last dance. Back to the battle. That's all you can do. If that's all you have, you might as well die, you annoying thing. Wan Tiansheng said with some disappointment, his eyes extremely cold. After several fights, the opponent's gun could only leave a faint blood mark on his body and pose no threat at all. However, this feeling of being surrounded by a rat made him very unhappy. In the void, Chu Yan's beautiful face had already turned extremely pale. She held the sky spear in her hand, and some blood fell from the knuckles. Her white fairy skirt was also stained with a lot of dust. She looked at Wan Tiansheng, and a feeling of powerlessness came over her heart. The opponent was so strong that it made people despair. She originally thought that she could use her speed to kite the opponent, but she did not expect that the huge giant's body was so fast, as if it had eyes on its back. No matter where she appeared, the opponent could clearly feel it. However, her few effective attacks could only leave a few traces of blood on the opponent, and even after a few breaths, they were completely restored. This terrifying recovery speed was something she had never seen in her life. The next moment, Chu Yan's pupils suddenly shrank. She saw the giant body as big as a hill rushing towards her like a cannonball. The speed of its explosion was hundreds of times stronger than before. There was a black cover under his feet. Wan Tiansheng punched down, and his arms seemed to contain supreme divine power. The entire void was trembling, and a black fist light burst out. The innate magical power of the giant clan will annihilate the underworld. At this moment, Wang Tung murmured, his eyes full of shock. After hearing this, the others also reacted instantly. Overlord had told them this before when they were crossing the sea. What the giants practiced seemed to be a black origin called the Extreme Black Dao. This origin was extraordinary and could be used by the giants in battle. Any move they made could be amplified several times and burst out with powerful force. However, in this extremely destructive underworld, every giant is different. For example, they found that some giants with mediocre strength produced average results, while some powerful giants could erupt as if they were two different people. It could be said that for a genius of Wan Tiansheng's level, the extreme black source he uses is more than twice as powerful. Chu Yan had no time to dodge, and could only hold the sky spear horizontally to try to block the punch. The fist, like a huge rock, smashed into the sky spear, and the power it unleashed was earth-shaking, flattening countless mountains. In the center of their confrontation, there was even endless smoke and dust, making it impossible to see the scene inside. The next moment, Wan Tiansheng stepped forward, creating a gust of wind and waves that dispersed the smoke and dust. In the huge pit that looked like a meteorite had hit it, there was only a silver spear left, lying there quietly, and the beautiful figure from before had long disappeared. The silver spear had lost its former luster and looked extremely dull. But what no one saw was that a flash of divine light flashed from the tip of the gun. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. Saint Chu is dead, Lu Dazhu exclaimed, his eyes full of disbelief, and for a moment he didn't know what to do. Then he turned around, looked at Xiongda, who seemed a little distraught, pursed his lips, and swallowed what he wanted to say. The next moment, after the others came to their senses, their eyes were red. It seems as if everything that happened in the past month happened just yesterday. Brute! Chao Li's blood rushed to his head. His face was ferocious, and he wanted to stand up to avenge Chu Yan, but the next moment he spat out a mouthful of blood because of his injury. Wang Tung clenched his fists, his eyes full of coldness, staring at Wan Tiansheng. Ximeng couldn't believe it either. Her beautiful eyes were dull, and she stared at that place in a daze. Her pretty face looked haggard and confused. Oh, killed with just one punch. Tiny humans are truly so weak. Wan Tiansheng was also a little surprised. He shook his head and said with disdain, "It's just a pity that the other party didn't leave any corpse, so he couldn't have a taste of it." The giants behind him were extremely excited and shouted Wan Tiansheng's name one after another. At this moment, although everyone in the outside world had been prepared, they were still stunned when they actually saw this scene. They didn't expect that after fighting with the opponent for so long, Saint Chu was still killed by a single punch. After coming to their senses, everyone was speechless, feeling bitter and sad. The opponent is simply too powerful. so powerful that it is hopeless and there is absolutely no way to fight back. Sister. In the crowd, the masked boy saw this scene, fell to his knees, and cried bitterly. His handsome face beneath the mask was already covered in tears. In the Chu family mansion, when Chu Shanha saw his daughter being killed, he seemed to age several times in an instant. He staggered and fell to the ground. Chief. When the tribesmen around him saw this, they hurried forward to help him up. At this moment, the entire Chu city was immersed in a sad atmosphere. In the void, those powerful beings couldn't help but sigh when they saw this, and the sadness in their eyes did not diminish. This universe is truly so unfair. Only our human race is mediocre and extremely weak. They were all strong men, and they could clearly see that the giant in the picture had black light wrapped around his body, which instantly made him several times stronger. They could all guess that this should be the other party's innate magical power, which was why they sighed so deeply. If the giant leader hadn't used it, with Saint Chu's strength, she could have held out for a few rounds. It's a good gun. It's not broken at all. Wan Tiansheng wanted to reach out and pick up the silver spear on the ground, his eyes gleaming with brilliance. Don't even think about it. Upon seeing this, Xiongda roared angrily. His body glowed with glazed light, and he rushed forward like an immortal Arhut. He was furious. He had never thought that the other party would even take away Chu Yan's belongings. Lu Daju's cultivation level is not even as good as his, and he has almost no combat experience. Shi Meng can heal other people, and the martial arts he practices are not good at fighting. But at this moment, as the only one with some combat ability, he naturally cannot retreat. Don't want. When Lu Daju saw this, his eyes widened and his face was filled with shock. Then, as if he had made a decision, he took off the jade pendant hidden under his sleeve and muttered a spell. The next moment, the jade pendant turned into a ray of light and escaped into Xiongda's body. Ants. Wan Tianxin glanced at Xiongda and sneered when he saw that he was only at the level of a great power, and his cultivation was even far inferior to those of the previous people. The next moment, he stepped on the ground, and a terrifying wave of air burst out. Xiongda's face changed. Under this wave of air, his body almost collapsed. He flew backwards and hit the stone wall. Xiongda's face was filled with despair. He had never thought that, even with all his might, he couldn't even get close to the opponent's body. His blood continued to flow out of his body. His tendons and veins were broken, and his vitality was constantly draining away. Am I going to die? Xiongda said breathlessly, and when he felt the condition of his body, he showed a bitter smile. But fortunately, I didn't act like a coward before I died. He looked at Lu Dazui, his mouth buzzing, as if he had something to say to him, and then he shook his head and smiled bitterly. In this situation, he probably couldn't say much. Thinking of this, a hint of regret appeared in his eyes. He wanted Lu Dazui to tell his father to live for himself in the future and not live in fear because of him all day long. Also, remember to apologize to his mother, and they must reconcile. What a pity. We agreed to go to the astronomical Holy Land to look for Mother after this immortal hiding. Now, it seems we may have to break our promise. Xiongda felt exhausted all over, and his eyes gradually closed, and inside his body, the rune was locking up his last chance of life. When Wang Tung and others saw this scene, their pupils suddenly shrank, and they were a little bit unbelievable. Xiongda is dead too. In the outside world, everyone had already become numb, and the eyes they looked at Wan Tiansheng were filled with fear. Not only them, but even those geniuses, their Tao hearts were vaguely cracked at this moment. Is this the monster from another domain? It's totally not on the same level. In the void, Elder Xiong saw this scene, and his mind was struck by lightning. Astronomical Holy Land. A beautiful woman in a palace dress was also watching the projection. When she saw Xiongda's death, her body trembled and her eyes turned red. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, someone unknown to me. This. Look. In the picture, Wan Tiansheng picked up the sky spear on the ground, and even held it in front of his eyes, observing it carefully. To him, human weapons were too rare, especially this small weapon, which could actually block his punch that activated the black source of destruction. However, the next moment, a brilliant light burst out from the sky spear, and a majestic spear intent covered the entire sky. This is... Wan Tiansheng was stunned, and then his face changed drastically. He actually felt a force that could threaten him from this silver spear. This is the ultimate spear, Dai. A cold voice came from the sky spear, full of murderous intent. After hearing this, Wan Tiansheng suddenly realized what was going on, and a look of panic appeared on his face. It turns out that the human woman was not dead. She was hiding in the gun. No wonder. She had been lying in ambush for so long, just to kill me. This moment happened so suddenly that no one expected such an accident to happen. Saint Lady Chu, he's not dead, Lu Daju said a little excitedly. Turning her body into a gun, Could it be that she wants to kill Tianyuan? Wang Tong exclaimed as if he had thought of something. At this moment, a spark of hope ignited in their eyes again. Success or failure depends on this one move. Whether or not Tianyuan can be killed depends on her. At this moment, everyone outside was dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They didn't expect that Saint Chu was not dead, but was still hiding in the silver spear over there. Her goal has always been to kill Tianyuan. When they came back to their senses, everyone looked extremely happy, and hope returned to their hearts. We're going to win. We're going to win. With this shot, the opponent will definitely die. It turns out that Saint Chu has never died. I knew that this kind of monster would never die. Come on, Saint Chu, kill this giant. Chapter 215, I heard you were looking for me. One more chapter. The masked boy in the crowd was stunned when he saw it. She's not dead. She's not dead. My sister is still alive. I knew that even God couldn't take this female devil away. Then, Chu Xing's eyes lit up, and for a moment he had trouble breathing and was so excited that he couldn't speak. When the Chu family and others saw this, they were also shocked and speechless. The saint is still alive. Quick, go tell the clan leader. I saw a ray of white light penetrating between heaven and earth, as if a divine spear had descended from the sky, tearing the entire 9 heavens apart. The boundless spear intent hovered in the entire void, and the astonishing pressure made everyone feel fear. You can imagine how shocking this shot was. I'm afraid that even if a veteran strongman in the God King realm was here, he would be killed on the spot. Oh, you are worthy of killing me. The next moment, a cold laugh suddenly rang out. Wang Tong and others were stunned and looked up at the sky. In the void, a startling figure still stood there. His face was cold, his eyes extremely indifferent. If it wasn't Tianyuan, who else could it be? Behind him stood a giant statue that towered over the heavens. The pressure it emanated was enough to make the heavens tremble. Is he still alive? Lu Dazhu and the other 3 were shocked. Their pupils suddenly shrank, and they couldn't believe it. This powerful spear blast only left a bloody mark, without even breaking the body. When they saw the Fa Tian Xiangdi behind Tianyuan, they understood instantly, and there was a hint of self-mockery on the corners of their mouths. It turned out that he had already entered the realm of God King, and had just summoned the law of heaven and earth to block the attack. At this moment, a feeling of despair and powerlessness surged in my heart. Tianyuan was too strong, so strong that I didn't know how to attack him. The white light dissipated, and Chu Yin was seen holding the sky spear. Her pretty face looked very weak. When she saw Tianyuan clearly, she was also stunned, and her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. But when he saw the 30-meter-tall Fatian Xiangdi statue behind him, he immediately understood. Chu Yin laughed at herself, and her beautiful face was full of bitterness. In the end, is he going to die here? But it's really hard for Xiongda. He's the first to go. She looked at Xiongda's body on the ground with a complicated expression and a hint of guilt in her eyes. I have to say, if I hadn't been more careful, I would have died here today. You are very smart, but unfortunately, you met me. Tianyuan shook his head and said with some regret. He grabbed the extremely weak Chu Yin with one hand. You humans are truly weak. I wonder what gave that foolish human the courage to mock me during the sea crossing. Pathetic, pathetic, what a pathetic and ignorant race. You deserve to be eaten by us. By the way, if you could tell me the whereabouts of that guy, I might consider letting you die a little easier. Tianyuan spoke, as if he had thought of something, and a cold look flashed in his eyes. After hearing this, Chu Yin thought of the figure in white. His face was extremely complicated. After all, it was the first time she had such an inexplicable feeling for a man. She couldn't tell whether it was the so-called love between a man and a woman, or just her admiration for the enchanter. Chu Yin thought again of the other party in the immortal treasure, shrouded in a strange vision, with unparalleled grace, easily killing the blood demon king. If the other party were here, would he kill Tianyuan like he did that day? Thinking of this, even Chu Yin herself smiled bitterly. What was wrong with her? She was really confused. How could she think of such an impossible thing? She shook her head. He was currently traveling with the Ice Phoenix goddess, and no one knew where he was. How could he possibly be here? Even if he were, he was at the level of a great power. Although he was the most formidable of the formidable she had ever seen, he couldn't possibly fight against Tianyuan, who was already a divine king. She also didn't want the other party to die in vain. After hearing this, Wang Tong and others were also stunned. They did not expect that the other party would mention people with double pupils. Are you dreaming? Even I wouldn't betray my friends. Damn it, kill your father if you have the guts. A sinister smile appeared on Chao Li's dark face as he spoke. Ximeng also nodded. That day in the holy land of astronomy, she had a glimpse of him that she could never forget. How could she betray him? What's more, they really don't know each other's location. Wang Teng ignored Wan Tiansheng. Although he disliked the man with double pupils, the other party was, after all, a monster from the Xintian realm. It was because of the man with double pupils that he was able to break through to the peak of the great power realm last time. How could he possibly betray him now? Not to mention Lu Dezhu, he is honest and has a good nature, and he has no such idea at all. At this moment, the outside world. Everyone couldn't believe it. In the end, they still lost. They didn't expect that such a shocking blow didn't even scrape off the flesh of the person opposite them. It only caused a faint blood mark. At this moment, people saw Fa Tianxiang Di behind Wan Tiansheng, and then they reacted. Their eyes were extremely shocked. He's actually at the divine king level, so capable of controlling the heavens and the earth. Oh my God! God is going to destroy our Xintian realm. How could such a monster exist? Dead, Saint Chu and the others will be wiped out. Everyone was filled with despair and said with pale faces, "The opponent is really too strong, so strong that it makes people feel scared." In the void, those powerful beings also sighed. Saint Chu and the others had tried their best, but now they had reached the end of their rope. Some of them closed their eyes, unable to bear to see such a cruel scene that followed. Seeing that none of these people said anything, Wan Tiansheng instantly became furious. "Very good. You are all stubborn, right? You all ignore me. In that case, then all of you go and die. After I kill you, I will devour your corpses. Then, you will all become my strength. Don't worry, I will use your power to kill all of you humans, including that arrogant kid." Wan Tiansheng showed a cruel look and sneered. After hearing this, Chu Yin also wanted to self-destruct, but was entangled by a black air. The same was true for Chao Li and others. Their faces looked aggrieved and in great pain. "I expected that you would want to self-destruct." Wan Tiansheng laughed. He liked to see these people shocked by his control. And at this moment, a cold voice sounded. "I heard you were looking for me." Chapter 216 Nangong Chen arrives. The outside world is boiling. The voice was extremely cold, like the whisper of a demon in the Nine Heavens Demon Cave, which made Wan Tiansheng shudder. "Who is it?" Wan Tiansheng's face changed, and he felt inexplicably flustered. He turned his head, and his pupils suddenly shrank. I saw a faint divine light burst out and rush straight towards him. The breath it emitted made even the void tremble. The speed was so fast that in an instant, the giant hand that was pinching Chu Yin was directly cut by this divine light, and blood gushed out continuously. Chu Yin instantly felt a sense of relief in her body, and the previous restrictions of Wan Tiansheng's extreme black source also disappeared. She was stunned for a moment, but quickly reacted and escaped from the five fingers. After her expression relaxed, she looked over there in shock with her beautiful eyes. Not far from the cave entrance, a figure in white stood in the void, with his hands behind his back. His eyes were like a galaxy, his double pupils shining, the sun and the moon rising and falling, and even a chaotic aura filled the air. He stepped on the sky, his black hair flying, and walked slowly. With every step he took, a golden ripple burst out in the air, carrying with him a mighty divine power. There were unicorns roaring around him, and he had a kingly aura, like a young supreme being descending. Apart from Nangong Chen, who else in the world has such an invincible demeanor that dominates the world? At this moment, people outside were also watching the scene intently. They were shocked. They didn't expect that at this critical moment, someone would take action and cut off Wan Tiansheng's hand. It was him, the one with double pupils. It was the one with double pupils who saved Saint Lady Chu. Someone looked at the man in white in the picture and said in a lost voice. As soon as these words were spoken, countless overwhelming voices rang out. "People with double pupils are awesome. People with double pupils are awesome." With just one move, he severed the arm of the indestructible giant leader. The strength of those with double pupils is far beyond our imagination. Aren't the giants arrogant? Why don't they show off their arrogance just now? Unsurprisingly, Nangong Chen's move ignited the atmosphere of the entire Xintian domain, and countless people shouted the name of the man with double pupils. Even some geniuses, some sect elders, and some powerful men, at this moment, put aside their previous reserve and cheered for those with double pupils like ordinary people. They have been suppressed for too long and have witnessed failure after failure. They really need someone to break the current situation. They really need someone to lead them to regain their confidence and defeat the arrogant Manyu. And now, the person they've been waiting for has finally appeared. It is the person with double pupils who was previously looked down upon by everyone. At this moment, the excitement in everyone's hearts was beyond words. Even those who had previously been pessimistic about people with double pupils were somewhat moved. In a vast sea of people, a hint of joy appeared in her beautiful eyes as she stared intently at the figure in white in the picture. "The young master is here. and the situation will eventually be reversed. Ever since she saw Nangong Chen in action, she had complete confidence in him and believed that any opponent would be defeated by him. Qing Fan beside him did the same, waving his fists with a fiery look in his eyes. But soon, everyone seemed to discover that the Ice Phoenix Goddess did not come with the man with double pupils. Hey, where's the Ice Phoenix Goddess? Didn't she travel with the one with double pupils? Someone asked doubtfully, looking at the picture. Maybe it's still on the way and will be here soon. That's right. If something happened to the Ice Phoenix Goddess, the one with double pupils wouldn't come here. I'm so excited. When I think about the arrival of another top-level monster, I'm sure we'll give these dog giants a good slap in the face. Everyone spoke up, their eyes burning with passion. Fuck, you're the only brother-in-law I have chosen for the future. If anyone else comes to marry my sister, I will kick him away. In the crowd, Chu Xing, wearing a mask, couldn't help but swear. He really couldn't imagine why his sister didn't like people with double pupils. If he were a woman, and a man suddenly appeared, he would have been moved to tears and would have immediately pledged his love to him. The Chu family and their children were also very excited when they saw this scene, and they wanted to thank the person with double pupils. And Chu Ruchuan's face was extremely gloomy. This guy suddenly appeared again and disrupted everything. She looked at Nangong Chen in the picture with a hint of resentment in her eyes. Tianyuan Dynasty. The appearance of Nangong Chen undoubtedly caused a huge sensation in the Divine Dynasty, especially when he appeared in this way. As soon as he appeared, he cut off one arm of the previously invincible giant. Prince, you always bring us surprises. In the palace, a minister said with some sigh, his eyes full of shock. Yes, if we can kill this giant leader, it will be an exciting event for our Divine Dynasty. No, for our entire human race. And the Crown Prince's prestige in the entire Xintian territory will reach a terrifying level. It can be said that there has never been anyone like him before, and there will never be anyone like him again. Su Ming also analyzed, looking a little excited. Ha ha ha, my son has the qualities of a saint. Nangong Zhan laughed loudly, and then seemed to have thought of something. No, my son has the potential to become an immortal. After he finished speaking, he was very satisfied. For Nangong Chen, the status of saint was probably just the starting point. In the future, he would definitely reach the pinnacle of the most powerful existence. It was not an exaggeration to call him an immortal. In the corner, the four girls were also a little stunned, and then they reacted and felt a little emotional. With the young master here, there will be no accidents. Yes. At this moment, Wang, Tung, and others present were a little stunned, and then their faces were extremely shocked. Obviously, this scene today is destined to be remembered by them for the rest of their lives. On the other side, after Chu Yin saw the person coming, her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and her beautiful face showed a look of disbelief. It's him, he's really here. It's you. Wan Tianqing's face was a little pale. He used a black energy to stop the blood gushing from his right hand, his eyes full of horror. He didn't expect that the person who injured him was the arrogant human boy who was crossing the sea that day. He had never expected that the other party was actually quite powerful and could cut off one of his arms. The other giants were also shocked and took a deep breath. They didn't expect that there would be humans coming at this time. Chapter 217, Humanoid Beast. Leave it to me. Nangong Chen looked indifferent and spoke calmly to Chu Yin, whose pretty face was pale. As soon as she finished speaking, a holy medicine with a hazy glow appeared and floated towards her. The other party had done him a favor before, and now he saved her life and gave her a holy medicine, which was a repayment of the favor. Chu Yin couldn't help but nodded. Just as she was about to say something, she saw that the other party had already walked away, dressed in white, facing the entire group of giants. She pursed her red lips slightly. A hint of mist appeared in her eyes, and her expression was complicated as she looked at the vibrant holy medicine in front of her. Nangong Chen stepped on the void. His eyes were so shocking, emitting a terrifying dim light, and when they opened and closed, there were visions of the world being destroyed and the sky collapsing. After seeing this, everyone present was shocked, and their faces turned pale. Some of them could not bear it. Some weak giants even vomited blood and fell to their knees on the spot. They all retreated, blood oozing from the corners of their mouths, with great fear in their hearts. This scene was so horrifying that they would never forget it in their lifetime. At the center of the pressure, Wan Tiansheng felt even greater. The eyes of the human being before him were truly too terrifying. Just one glance at them made him feel as if his mind was being devoured. He was a little puzzled as to why he had not felt such pressure when he was crossing the sea before. No wonder he dared to mock the geniuses of the entire 9 realms before. It turns out that he had such confidence. But fortunately, he now understands it. These eyes were indeed very powerful. making him somewhat fearful. But if he was not mistaken, this human's cultivation was only at the peak of the great power realm, far from becoming a god king. If he had become a god king, he would still have some concerns. Since he has not become a god king, he is still an ant after all. Now that he had figured out the opponent's trump card, Tianyuan was no longer as panicked as before. He said coldly, "Is this pair of eyes your only reliance? If you don't become a divine king, you will always be an ant. I don't know how you got here, but since you are here today, please leave your life here so that I don't have to look for you somewhere else." A hint of murderous intent appeared in his eyes, and then his severed right hand actually regained its flesh and blood. This boy will definitely die today. At this moment, people outside couldn't help but feel worried after seeing what happened. Yes, we forgot that even those with double pupils are at the level of great power. The giant on the other side is actually a god king. So what if he's powerful? Don't forget, just now the one with double pupils cut off his arm with just a glance. I believe the one with double pupils can definitely defeat him. That's right, don't let others' ambitions grow while destroying your own prestige. Believe in the person with double pupils. He must have the confidence to come here. These people spoke up to encourage each other. Although they had concerns in their hearts, no one said it out loud, and they continued to cheer for the person with double pupils. You know, the other party is at the God King level. It is as difficult as ascending to heaven to kill the God King at the powerful level. The hope is very slim. But even so, they could only believe in that last hope, because there was no other choice. In the void, those powerful people saw this, and their expressions became complicated. Their minds were filled with thoughts, and no one knew what they were thinking. It's difficult. A powerful person thought to himself, although he didn't specify what it was, but the meaning was very obvious. Obviously, with their rich experience, they knew how difficult it was for a powerful person to fight against a god king. That's a bit of a coward, but it's a pity. Zhao Lei looked at the young man in the picture, shook his head, and felt a little regretful. Obviously, even he, a highly renowned martial arts master, was not optimistic about Nangong Chen. The gap between the powerful and the god king is really too big. Not to mention that the other party is the leader in other domains, and the law of heaven and earth he has condensed is far beyond that of other geniuses of the same level. Even among the god kings, despite his young age, he is still a very difficult person. "You talk too much," Nangong Chen said in a cold voice, glancing at a corpse not far away. The clothes on the corpse looked very familiar. A disciple of Howren Pavilion? What a pity, I'm a step too late. He couldn't help but think of the last time Elder Xiong came and begged him to take care of the disciples of their Howren Pavilion, if he had the energy to do so. But since he has taken the money, he can't just not do the job. He looked at Tianyuan, a cold light flashing in his eyes. In that case, you should go down and apologize. Tianyuan felt a little nervous when he was looked at with this gaze, which made him feel very uncomfortable. He was about to open his mouth to curse a few words, but he saw a huge fist light coming towards him. Nangong Chen's pupils were blazing. His aura was like a dragon. His hands were clenched into fists, and surging fist light covered him. Behind him, a supreme white robe appeared. This supreme figure was so powerful that just a hint of pressure emitted from it made the souls of everyone present tremble. It seemed as if what they saw before their eyes was an immortal god, a real immortal god. This is a god-level martial art, the heavenly Emperor Fist. At the same time, Nangong Chen activated the secret of movement, and almost in an instant, he was already in the other person's face. Looking at Tianqing's panic-stricken face, he didn't hesitate and threw a punch. It's him, beyond the immortal treasure in a starry sky. When the boy in Taoist robe saw the white figure, he was shocked, and his eyes were filled with horror. Then, he looked at Nangong Chen with a complicated expression. "What is your relationship with that person? Come back to your senses." Tianyuan was shocked. He didn't expect that the other party would appear in front of him in an instant. What the hell is this speed? He had no time to resist, and could only watch the punch fall, unable to help but swear. In the eyes of everyone, this was just a casual punch thrown by Nangong Chen, extremely small like a baby hitting an adult. Boom! However, it was such a weird scene. When that light punch fell, the huge body of Tianyuan, along with Fa Tianxiangdi, fell together like a cannonball, with continuous collision sounds. After a long time, the sound gradually disappeared. Everyone was stunned watching this scene. Is this still the Tianyuan they just fought? How come he looks like a completely different person? Of course, these were all jokes. They knew in their hearts that it was not that Tianyuan was too weak, but that Nangong Chen was too strong. In the outside world, when other people saw this scene, what they thought in their minds was similar to what Wang Teng and others thought. "My king!" The giant tree screamed. His face looked extremely panicked. There was a hint of fear in his eyes when he looked at Nangong Chen. "My king has opened the law of heaven and earth. This human is probably a ferocious beast in human form. Such terrifying power. It really refreshed his worldview. Chapter 218. You should be proud of hitting Wan Tiansheng with one punch. Cough. Only a weak cough was heard. The next moment, the dust cleared and everyone's pupils shrank when they saw the scene in front of them. Is this Wan Tiansheng? Lu Dezhu was a little speechless and his eyes widened. A pair of giant hands covered in blood stretched out from the bottomless pit, and then a huge, devastated face appeared in front of everyone. The most shocking thing was that almost half of Wan Tiansheng's head was broken, and the remaining half was shrouded in a black mist, making it hazy and difficult to see the scene inside. Very good, Aunt. You have succeeded in irritating me. Wan Tiansheng crawled out, the black mist covering his face, and a gritting sound was heard. Of course, after everyone saw Wan Tiansheng's body clearly, their faces became even more shocked. The nearly 20-meter-tall giant's body was in pieces, with countless streaks of blood and black light intertwined. His limbs were in a horrible state, and he stood in extremely awkward posture. At this moment, he looks like neither human nor ghost. But the strange thing is that even in this state, Wan Tiansheng still has the ability to move. You should be proud that you were able to take my punch and survive. When Nangong Chen saw this, his brows fell calmly, and he spoke. There was a sense of superiority in his tone, and a divine aura enveloped him, as if he were a god, looking down at the world. What kind of self-confidence and arrogance does one have to say such words? At this moment, the whole audience was silent. If an ordinary person said such words, he would probably be like a newborn calf who is ignorant of the immensity of heaven and earth. But if the person who said this is a person with double pupils, then it's a different story. He seriously injured the strongest monster in the Mang domain, Wan Tiansheng, who was at the God King level with one punch. He was qualified, more qualified than anyone else to say such words. What's more, he was only at the great power level. Wang Tung and others looked horrified, and at this moment they finally felt a little dazed, with a bitter smile on their lips. No wonder the one with double pupils dared to mock the other evildoer from the Nine Realms during the sea crossing that day. No, it's even possible that he mocked them all. With such incredible strength, if any one of them were to take this punch, they would probably be blown to ashes. Chu Yan's beautiful eyes were filled with shock as she stared at the scene in a daze. That day in the Nine Heavens secret realm, he seemed just as calm and confident, as if nothing was unsolvable in front of him. At this time, Chu Yan seemed to have just realized something, and her expression became complicated. It turns out that he has not changed at all. The one who has changed is himself. At this moment in the outside world, as Nangong Chen's voice fell, it instantly caused a sensation. People with double pupils are awesome. People with double pupils are so handsome. This is the top demon from our Xintian territory. Such grace and confidence have never appeared before, even in the past few epochs. Who just said that the great power realm can't fight the God King? Heizi, tell your father what is on the screen now. Countless people were shouting and cheering for those with double pupils, their eyes filled with passion. The man with double pupils has such great personal charm that even those who were not optimistic about him before have stood up and supported him. They will never forget today's scene in their lifetime, and the 3 words, people with double pupils, will be engraved in everyone's heart. Nangong Chen is now truly famous throughout the world. If you look closely, you can find that there is a hint of disbelief in everyone's eyes, as if everything that happened today was like a dream. This was truly like a dream. First, Saint Chu and her companions were in danger. They were ambushed by the giants from the wild territory. They tried almost every trick in the book, but couldn't defeat them. One of them even died. The strongest attack that Saint Lady Chu launched at all costs only left a few streaks of blood mist on the opponent's body. When everyone saw this, they thought that all the geniuses would die today. At that time, every word of ridicule from Wan Tiansheng was like a sharp blade, piercing deep into their hearts. Such an arrogant attitude kept turning around in their minds. However, now, the man with double pupils appeared in a domineering manner, first cutting off one of the opponent's arms, and then attacking with great force, punching the arrogant Wan Tiansheng so hard that his body almost collapsed. How could they not feel relieved and comfortable? At this moment, in the Xintian territory, almost countless young boys and girls were shouting that name, the one with double pupils. And today is destined to be recorded in history, leaving the most vivid mark in the endless river of time. In the void, those who had previously questioned the powerful were also silent. After holding it in for a long time, someone finally managed to utter a word. Why is the body of this person with double pupils so strong? Yes, why is his body so strong? These powerful people were puzzled and looked a little confused. Since ancient times, haven't those with pupil-related talents been known for their weak bodies and lethal pupil techniques? Why is it different here with this person with double pupils? Not only are those double pupils extremely powerful, but even the way of the physical body has reached an unprecedented level. He doesn't look like a human being, but more like the descendant of a true dragon in the legend. If I get the chance, I'll definitely check to see if the ancestor of that person with double pupils is truly of dragon blood. I actually misjudged you. Interesting. Zhao Lei's aura was as deep as the abyss. He looked at the young man in white in the picture and said in surprise. He had only seen such a peerless figure in ancient books, but that was also a figure from legends. If the other party has talent in swordsmanship, perhaps it would be possible to bring these two people into the Holy Land together. Zhao Lei's eyes lit up, and he thought to himself, fuck, this guy is really abnormal. Is this kid really at the level of a powerful being? After watching for a long time, Li Songhai couldn't help but swear and said with a shocked look on his face, the peak of the great power realm, for sure. Bai Wu Dao, who was standing by, looked at the information loaded into the Tianji pavilion and spoke slowly. This monster is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime monster. Now it seems that this boy might really be able to enter the second round. Li Songhai exclaimed excitedly, and then paused as if he had thought of something. So, this kid really wasn't traveling around before, but was actually practicing some kind of secret cultivation? Have no idea. Bai Wu Dao shook his head. How could he know what Nangong Chen was thinking? It seems that's true. Hiss. When the two boys come back this time, I have to ask them to change their training plan. It would be best to find them a Taoist partner. Li Songhai was a little dazed and murmured. Little did they know that it was Nangong Chen's actions in the immortal treasure that would cause certain people great pain in the future. Of course, Nangong Chen didn't know all this. Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Such words in this world, perhaps only the crown prince has the courage to say them. Su Ming looked at the high-spirited young man in the picture, with admiration flashing in his eyes. At the same time, there was a shock in his heart. It's hard to imagine that this is the young master who crippled Su Outyin in the Su family that day. At that time, the opponent seemed to be only at the Spirit Sea realm, while he was only at the peak of the Purple Mansion realm, and was worried about reaching the Great Power realm. Now, several months have passed, and the other party's realm is not only far superior to his own, but his strength is also comparable to the best among the God Kings, and he has just broken through to the realm of great power. Thinking about how excited he was about breaking through to become a powerful being, Su Ming felt a little ashamed. He was also grateful for the decision he made at that time to marry his daughter to Nangong Chen. Today, the Su family has reached this point. He looked at the young man in the picture, and the respect in his eyes deepened. The other ministers were also immersed in shock and did not speak for a long time. When they saw the prince crush Wan Tiansheng with one punch, their eyes widened. This is different from the spring and autumn God King that day. This is the real God King realm, and the one with the most extraordinary talent. You know, the more evil this kind of person is, the greater the gap between him and ordinary God Kings will be after he becomes a God King. This can also be seen from Wan Tiansheng's Fa Tian Xiangdi. However, even such a genius as the God King was still defeated by the prince. Thinking of this, they didn't know what to say. The prince's progress was really rapid. Even Nangong Zhan stood up and looked at the projection in shock. Is this enough to fight the God King? Although he had already guessed it, he couldn't help but be shocked when he actually saw it. You know, when he entered the Divine King realm at the age of 100, he was hailed as the #1 prodigy in the Great Zhou Dynasty. Now, looking at the 18-year-old Nangong Chen, he couldn't help but be silent. Sometimes he really wondered how terrifying the child's mother must be to have given birth to such a child. Chapter 219, Wan Tiansheng Falls. Su Li arrives. In the corner, Wang Yuxuan and the other two girls were also shocked, their beautiful eyes shining brightly. They knew they could win, but they didn't expect it to be so easy to kill the opponent with just one punch. When I first met the young master, he was only at the spiritual sea realm. Now, he can even fight against the God King. Wang Yuxuan said with some sigh that the gap between herself and the other party was getting bigger and bigger. I had just reached the peak of the Purple Mansion some time ago and was considered a monster in the Xintian realm. However, compared with my master, I was defeated in seconds without leaving a trace. As soon as these words were spoken, Zhou Wanner and Lu Ruyan were shocked. Didn't you just meet the young master a few months ago? Was he only at the spiritual sea then? Lu Ruyan said in disbelief. Yes, when I met him that day, he seemed to be in the late stage of the spiritual sea, about the same realm as the goddess. After Wang Yuxuan confirmed that everything was correct, she nodded. After hearing this, the two looked at each other, their pupils shrinking slightly. When they met Nangong Chen, he had already reached the Purple Mansion realm. They thought that Nangong Chen had already entered the Purple Mansion realm long ago, But today Wang Yuxuan told them that Nangong Chen had just reached the spiritual sea realm a few months ago. Doesn't that mean that he had already crossed 2 major realms in just a few months? Thinking of this, they became even more horrified. To go from the spirit sea to a powerful being in just a few months is unheard of even in the Xintian realm. And if I heard correctly, it seems that Wang Yuxuan just mentioned the 2 goddesses. They're both perverts. No wonder they can be together. You have to know that when they were 18 years old, they were not like Su Li and Nangong Chen, who directly reached the realm of great power. At that time, they were still thinking hard about how to enter the Purple Mansion. Of course, they're not very old now, only about 27 or 28 years old, and Wang Yuxuan is about 1 or 2 years younger than the 3 of them. No, after this, I have to go back to the sword sect and train hard. Lu Ruyan raised her eyebrows and said with some seriousness on her beautiful and elegant face. Wang Yuxuan and Zhou Wan'er also looked at each other and decided in their hearts that after this time, they would practice hard and at least break through to the realm of great power. The little tail who had been listening to their conversation felt a little unsatisfied when he saw that they stopped talking. It turns out my brother-in-law is so powerful. He has reached the realm of great power in just a few months. What the academy teacher said is all lies. What is 10 years of spiritual sea and 100 years of purple palace? If they knew that my brother-in-law had become powerful in just a few months, they would probably be scared to death. Chu Yao had an innocent face, and she thought to herself, with the corners of her mouth slightly raised. The northern region of Tianyuan is located on the northern border of the divine dynasty. Wow, General, your nephew is so strong. He was able to beat that divine king Tianjiao so badly. We are indeed a family. In front of a big pot of rice, a soldier looked at the man sitting on the high city wall and said excitedly. When others heard this, they also started joking. That's not true. The general's family has produced many amazing people. An older veteran said leisurely, then looked at it. By the way, my son has always liked that young master. If possible, General, could you help me get an autograph? Second brother, you are being dishonest. I want one too. My youngest son must be talking about the young master every day. He worships the young master so much that he even talks about him in his sleep. So what if he has a great holy body? I can suppress him. Nonsense. Among the young talents of today's divine dynasty, who wouldn't consider the young master as their idol? Haha, I want an autograph too. On the towering city wall, Nangong Chen gazed at the entire northern territory from afar. After hearing the voices of his subordinates, he also looked at the young man in the picture, and the corner of his mouth curled up. Who else wants one? Next time I go back to the capital, I'll get a few more for you. When he spoke, the pride in his eyes almost overflowed. You should be proud that you were able to take my punch without dying. As the words fell, Wan Tianqing's face turned as purple as pig liver. He's been roaming the wild territory for so long, but this is the first time that a human has dared to say these words to him. This naked humiliation made him want to chop the insect in front of him into pieces. But he soon calmed down, and that half of his face was actually covered by the black air, turning into a half-demon. You can't defeat me with your physical strength alone. Wan Tiansheng shook his head and spoke in a cold voice with a very confident tone. As the black air covered his body, the aura emanating from that huge body became stronger and stronger, causing many people present to change their expressions. Oh, Nangong Chen also became interested. His pupils were blazing as he looked at Wan Tiansheng, wanting to see what tricks the other party could play on him. In his eyes, Wan Tiansheng was completely wiped out by his punch, but suddenly a mysterious black energy surged out of his body, covering his heart. Chu Yan, who was not far away, saw this scene, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He quickly said, "Hurry up and take action. That is the magical power of the giants. It can destroy the black source. If you wait until the black energy covers your whole body, then..." Before he could finish his words, a terrifying aura burst out from Wan Tianxing's body, causing a storm, and even the void trembled. Wang Teng and others also looked pale. They knew how powerful Wan Tiansheng would be after entering this state. What's more, this is not just the Wan Tiansheng whose body is covered by black air just now, but the whole body is covered by it. It's too late. The next moment, Wan Tianxing's huge body was covered by the black air, leaving only 2 pairs of huge blood-red eyes exposed. At this moment, both the strength and the physical strength have received a terrifying increase. It can be said that Wan Tiansheng in this state can even reach the peak strength of the God King. This is a very terrifying concept. You must know that his original cultivation is only at the middle stage of the God King. Ant, how do you want to die? Since you've got me in a top form, I can allow you to commit suicide now. Wan Tiansheng said in a cold voice, staring straight at Nangong Chen. Nangong Chen looked at him for a while without saying anything. On the other side, Wang Teng and others were talking in low voices. Does he have any other tricks? Wang Ting looked at Nangong Chen and asked uncertainly. I don't know, but seeing how confident he is, there should be some. Chao Li shook his head and then said with an extremely fiery look in his eyes, full of admiration. Have you forgotten? He doesn't even have a double pupil. Moreover, in his previous battle with Prince Ao Long, that terrifying thunder technique and the Qilin magic that some people speculated about seemed to be useless. Lu Dazhu seemed to remember something and spoke slowly. After hearing this, Chao Li and Wang Teng looked at each other. Yes, those who claim to have double pupils above the 9th level. It seems that those who have double pupils haven't shown much. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but feel a little excited, wanting to see how shocking these double pupils would be. Ximing, who was not far away, had her dazzling purple hair cascading like a waterfall. Her eyes were like stars as she stared straight at the figure in white. Worry was evident on her face, and her fair hands were a little clenched. When Wang Teng saw this scene, a hint of sadness appeared in his eyes, but his expression remained the same as before. After Chu Yin swallowed a holy medicine, her energy and blood recovered a lot. At this moment, she was also looking at Nangong Chen intently. If you look closely, you can also see the worry in her eyes. How did I die? And you asked me to commit suicide? After hearing this, Nangong Chen's expression became calm, with the corners of his mouth raised, as if he had heard a joke. This leisurely and contented attitude also made Wan Tianxing feel a little unhappy. It seems that you don't cherish the opportunity one gave you, so you might as well die. Wan Tianxing's shell was covered by black air, and his huge eyes showed a cold look. The next moment, he suddenly attacked and grabbed Nangong Chen. The giant hand wrapped in black air was like a dark cloud falling from the sky, and in an instant the void was filled with black light. Boom! The devil's hand covered down with a terrifying power, and endless black energy surged towards Nangong Chen, suppressing him. Nangong Chen's face showed no emotion. He just watched quietly, as if he was frightened. After Chu Yin and others saw this, their eyes became even more worried. But even so, they did not interfere with Nangong Chen. A battle of this level was simply not something they could interfere with. At this moment, everyone outside was shocked when they saw this scene. They held their breath and dared not miss a minute. If you learn a little from the fights between these monsters, you will benefit from it for the rest of your life. Seeing that he didn't move, Wan Tianxing revealed a cruel smile. This kid must be afraid that he would give up resistance directly. Soon this living life will become a pool of blood in his hands. Thinking of this, he was extremely happy. However, at this moment, a ray of light that pierced the sky burst out from his double pupils, tearing apart the surging black air. Nangong Chen's double pupils were blazing, his black hair was dancing, and as his eyes opened and closed, strands of brilliant runes burst out from them, transforming into moving chains of divine order. "La," Nangong Chen said in a cold voice. Those double pupils were really too terrifying, emitting an unprecedented, terrifying light. Faintly, it seemed that the sun and the moon were destroyed, and the stars were regenerated. It was both despair and revival. The next moment, countless divine chains of order, carrying wisps of divine light, rushed towards Wan Tianxing like ancient willow branches. These divine chains were so earth-shattering that even the rules above the 9 heavens vaguely resonated with them. Bursts of thunder sounded in the void, as if the Lord of heaven and earth had descended. The aura it exudes is unstoppable and has an overwhelming divine power. Puff! In an instant, the 17 giants behind Wan Tianxing vomited blood. Their faces turned pale, and their huge bodies retreated uncontrollably. There was a hint of fear in their eyes. Just a glance could seriously injure them. What kind of situation would Wan Tianxing be in? After Wan Tianxing saw those eyes, his huge body seemed to freeze in the air. After he reacted, he couldn't help but widen his eyes when he saw the scene in front of him. Countless divine chains were wrapped around his huge body, binding him tightly from head to toe, unable to move at all. "What are you doing? Let me go." Wan Tianxing was panicked, completely panicked. His face was pale, and the black fog that covered him kept receding, revealing his originally tattered body. He felt his strength disappearing continuously, and he tried desperately to struggle, but the divine chain became tighter and tighter. Nangong Chen stepped forward, his pupils cold and indifferent, countless brilliant runes interwoven around him. Like an ancient sage, he pronounced, "Die." The next moment, a ray of light burst out from his double pupils, with a power so terrifying that it seemed to be able to tear the sky apart. "Ah!" With a scream, the black air in Wan Tianxing's heart gradually faded away, and all life force disappeared. The prodigy of the giant race, Wan Tianxing, dies. At this moment, Su Li happened to arrive outside the cave. Seeing the scene, her red lips parted slightly. Chapter 2:20 The terrifying speed of improvement shocked everyone. With a gulp, someone reacted and couldn't help swallowing, looking at the man in white in the void. Disperse, Nangong Chen said lightly, and his double pupils returned to their former depth. As soon as he finished speaking, the divine chain of order in the void turned into starlight and dissipated into the world. Boom! Without the blessing of the divine chain, Wan Tianxing's body fell to the ground with a look of resentment and shock on his face. Only at the end did he feel regretful and wonder why he had provoked such a monster. Of course, it was all too late. At this moment, the whole audience was silent. He did it. Lu Dezhu swallowed his saliva and spoke in a choked voice. I knew it. Chao Li's face was burning with anger, and he waved his fist. Wang Teng was silent, his expression somewhat complicated, and there was a hint of shock in his eyes as he looked at Nangong Chen. I thought it would be a tough battle, but I didn't expect it to be a one-sided crushing victory, and it ended so quickly. His strength was far beyond his imagination, and even more terrifying. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but reveal a hint of self-mockery. It's no wonder Xi Meng fell in love with such a peerless evildoer. He did not feel jealous at all. All he felt was helplessness. Given such a huge gap, he could not even muster the thought of jealousy. Xi Meng, with purple hair, was staring at the peerless figure in a daze, her beautiful eyes blooming with a strange brilliance. At the same time, an idea emerged in her mind. Is there really such a perfect person in the world? On the other side, Chu Yan's delicate face, full of complexity, looked at Nangong Chen. If Nangong Chen had not taken action this time, the entire army would probably have been wiped out. I owe him a huge favor. Thinking of this, she sighed. The other party's strength improved too fast, so fast that it was astonishing. Sometimes she wondered if this person with double pupils was the reincarnation of a saint. After all, there have been cases like this before. You have to know that in the Nine Heavens secret realm, the other party is only at the Purple Mansion realm, having just entered the heavenly ranking, and his cultivation level is not even as high as hers. And now, the other party's astonishing growth rate is enough to look down on them. Outside, everyone was speechless for a long time as they watched this scene on the screen. After a long time, someone finally exclaimed, "People with double pupils are so terrifying." After everyone came to their senses, their faces flushed and their hearts were filled with excitement. Who said there are no evildoers among us humans? Open your eyes. Who is this? This double pupil is truly too terrifying. Is this the legendary super 9th grade talent? The combat power this burst out is unprecedented. That's hilarious. Why is that giant not so arrogant anymore? Oh, he's already a cold corpse. I can only say that he has to be a person with double pupils. At this moment, in Xintian territory, no matter where in the world, people were shouting the name of the one with double pupils. The previous despair and powerlessness also dissipated instantly at this moment. In this battle, the person with double pupils proved to the world why double pupils are a talent beyond the 9th grade. What you, the 9th rank, cannot do, I, the super 9th rank, can do. This is the super 9th rank. At this moment, all the previous doubts disappeared without a trace. In the void, the faces of those powerful people were filled with emotion. Some of those who had previously been pessimistic about people with double pupils were now blushing. Super 9th rank qualification, well-deserved. Who in ancient times could achieve such a feat of defeating an enemy in a completely different realm? If the one with double pupils hadn't perished, he would have become the most powerful being in the Xintian realm in the future, surpassing us. He might even be comparable to the ancient sages. In Qilin Gate and Tianbao Pavilion, there are important figures who praise Nangong Chen highly. This time the other party turned the tide and saved their disciples, and they will definitely reward them handsomely. Even Wang Qi, the head of the Wang family who had offended Nangong Chen before, broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, he had not offended Nangong Chen to death at that time, and there was still room for recovery. After this is over, go to the clan treasury and get some treasures to give to the person with double pupils. Befriend him. In the future, you must tell your disciples not to provoke him. Anyone who does will be expelled from the Wang family. Wang Qi gave instructions to an elder beside him. Make friends with him? But what happened with Prince Aolong earlier? After hearing this, the elder of the clan took a deep breath and said hesitantly. Wang Qi knew what he was thinking and said calmly, with his talent, if he is not killed by the venerable in the future, he will surely become a hidden dragon in the sky, roaming the vast wilderness. If we invest then, it will be too late. Besides, if that venerable knew that the person who killed his disciple was such a monster, do you think he would choose to recruit him or kill him? Human nature is often the most complicated thing. His eyes were deep and his tone was meaningful. As the head of a family, he had naturally seen more than others? Yes. After hearing this, the elder no longer questioned it. A look of shock flashed across his eyes, and he prepared to retreat. Wait, the Qing siblings who Wang Batian provoked earlier also sent someone to secretly deliver something over. They have a special relationship with a person with double pupils, so we must pay special attention to them. At least in Chu City, we must ensure their safety. As for Wang Batian, forget about getting out for the rest of his life. Just spend the rest of your life in the backyard. Wang Qi seemed to have thought of something and spoke out. When he mentioned Wang Batian, a deep disappointment flashed in his eyes. I know. After hearing this, the elder of the clan quickly left. In the Chu family, Chu Shanha also woke up at this moment. Looking at the scene on the screen, his expression was extremely complicated and his eyes were a little hesitant. That day, when he heard Chu Yan's story about the Nine Heaven secret realm, he didn't take it seriously, thinking it was a bit exaggerated. After all, which genius could have such strength in the Purple Mansion realm? Now it seems that what his daughter said that day was even a bit conservative. He never thought that a person could be so evil. Is it true that I am not as good as my daughter in judging people? Am I wrong to ask Chu Yin and Chu Xing not to get close to each other? Chu Shanha was a little confused for a moment. At this moment, a somewhat resentful voice sounded. No matter how powerful he is, he will still be killed by the supreme being in the upper realm in half a year. Chu Ruchuan snorted coldly, with an inexplicable meaning. After hearing this, the others present felt that the other party had gone too far and frowned slightly, but due to the other party status, they did not say much. The man with double pupils not only saved their saint, but also gave her a holy medicine. Not only did he not repay such a kindness, but he also made sarcastic remarks here. As a strong man, he doesn't even have this little magnanimity. Thinking of this, there was some disappointment in the eyes of those people. After hearing this, Chu Shanha was stunned for a moment, and then his eyes became firm. That's right. Even if the other party is extremely talented, he will still be killed by the venerable one from the upper realm in half a year. He has done nothing wrong. He is also thinking about the entire Chu family. I just hope that my daughter can understand this truth in the future. In Howren Pavilion, Elder Xiong looked at the projection, his eyes reddened. Son, your father is incompetent and was unable to avenge you personally. But fortunately, someone has avenged you on your behalf. His eyes were fixed on a corner of the picture, where was the figure lying in a pool of blood, Xiongda. Suddenly, Elder Xiong rubbed his eyes as if he had seen it wrong, and exclaimed, "Fuck!" In a trance, he seemed to see Xiongda's fingers move twice. In the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, when people saw Wan Tiansheng being beheaded by the prince, countless excited cheers were heard on the streets. In the Tianyuan sword sect, the Red Sword God King was also watching this scene, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Can this kill a powerful God King? He murmured, a little speechless. He could see that with the prince's current strength, he was even stronger than him, and could even kill him easily. Fortunately, I was able to hold on to him in time. I also have to thank my foresight for having seen that this person is definitely not an ordinary person. The Red Sword God King sighed, somewhat admiring his own vision. With the speed at which the other party was growing, it wouldn't be long before he was far ahead of him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. It seemed that in order to further deepen the relationship, Lu Ruyan had to communicate more with the other party. Tianyuan Academy. On a mountain peak that reached into the sky, an old man with an immortal appearance looked at the scene in the sky. Countless cheers instantly arose, and he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. This person is none other than the dean of Tianyuan Academy, Kong Daoyan. Who would have thought that Nangong Chen and Su Li, who had just walked out of the academy, would now become the most dazzling geniuses in Xintian domain? He felt extremely proud of this. After all, he had benefited from it, even though those two people did not stay in the academy for long. This also made Tianyuan Academy famous, and even in eastern Shenzhou, it became the most coveted academy for countless young disciples. No wonder the inheritance of the Yuanling monument that day chose him. Kong Daoyun stood on the top of the mountain, muttering as if he had thought of something. Sure enough, do you still have foresight? In his mind, a portrait placed in the core of the academy suddenly emerged. The person in the portrait was none other than the first president of the academy, Gunan. Dean, it seems like our academy will be expanding its enrollment soon. At this moment, a servant boy beside him spoke, looking at Nangong Chen in the picture with some resentment in his eyes. It's all because of this man. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be working like an ox or a horse all day long. Indeed, it seems that the next time the disciples come, they won't just be from East Shenzhou, Kong Daoyun said slowly, looking into the distance. Xiao Wu, be prepared. If necessary, feel free to report to the court and His Majesty. The other party will most likely not refuse. After all, this kind of thing is a great thing for our divine dynasty. Kong Daoyun said to the servant boy beside him with a deep look in his eyes. Ah, it's me again. Okay. After hearing this, Xiao Wu's face turned dark. Although he wanted to refuse, he agreed because of his teacher's dignity. In the past few months, he has run a total of 108 times. He really doesn't treat himself as a human being. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but touch the horns on his head and smiled awkwardly. It seems like I'm not really a human being. Chapter 221, Giant Plants Plan, Foolish Giants. Inside the Immortal Treasure House. My king is dead. It took a long time for the giant tree to react and said in disbelief. He inexplicably felt that everything that was happening now was like a dream. This is simply unbelievable. The invincible man who suppressed all the geniuses in the wild realm would actually die at the hands of a tiny human. You know, in their eyes, Wan Tiansheng is the symbol of invincibility. Kill him and avenge our king. A giant's eyes turned red, and he spoke in a low voice, staring at Nangong Chen intently. Although they said so, no one dared to go up at this moment. After all, they would definitely not be a match for the person who could kill their king, Wan Tiansheng. Zhu had anticipated this and gritted his teeth, saying, "We must kill this human. Otherwise, when we get out, if our king dies, we will be buried with him. Don't you want to live anymore?" After hearing what Zhu said, the expressions of the other tribesmen also changed, as if they had thought of something terrible. Then kill them. I don't believe that 17 of us can't beat this one. One of the giants became ruthless and spoke. These words undoubtedly gave them great self-confidence. That's right, there's 17 of us here. Are you still afraid that we can't beat him? Kill him and avenge our king. Go ahead. After he finished speaking, these giants picked up their weapons and rushed towards Nangong Chen. Suddenly, the rumbling sound of footsteps was heard. After seeing this scene, the giant tree also revealed a strange smile and then turned and left. I'm so stupid. I just said it casually and you actually believed it. A being that could kill Wan Tiansheng, but you can't outnumber him? How naive. Just take your time fighting that monster. I'm leaving first. After we get out, I'll take good care of your wives. Thinking of this, the smile on Zhu's mouth became more cunning and his pace quickened. But soon, he felt a chill coming from the front. Where do you want to go? Suli held a jade sword in her hand, her beautiful eyes frosty, and spoke in a cold voice, her aura very domineering. Rumble. The powerful and heavy footsteps rang like an iron bell. More than a dozen giants were at the gate of the city, with cold eyes and various cold weapons in their hands. Their huge bodies brought a strong sense of oppression. When Wang Tung and others saw this, they were a little shocked. Wan Tiansheng is dead, and they still dare to come and send him off? I'm afraid they must be crazy. Lu Dezhu said in surprise, and then stuffed a spiritual herb into Xiongda's mouth. I don't understand what these giants are thinking. Do they think they can kill those with double pupils by relying on numbers? Are they dreaming? Charlie was also a little confused. Wang Tung frowned and said nothing, feeling a little confused. Is there something strange about this? Chu Yin and Shi Meng were also watching this scene, with a hint of curiosity in their beautiful eyes. Soon, everyone saw clearly that these giants came to a place about 10 meters away from Nangong Chen, stopped, their bodies seemed to tremble, and their mouths were buzzing, speaking a language they could not understand. Nangong Chen, who was opposite them, didn't seem to notice them and seemed to be fiddling with something. How do I transfer the points on this bracelet? Looking at the huge sum of 130,000 on Wan Yinsheng's bracelet, Nangong Chen pondered. After all, the Star Envoy at that time seemed to have only said that it could be transferred, but didn't say how to transfer it. After studying for a while, Nangong Chen still didn't find any solution. He frowned slightly. To him, this design was a bit anti-human. After all, have you seen that methods like touching bracelets together, authenticating with a drop of blood, sending in spiritual power, are these methods useless? So how do I transfer these points? Although 130,000 isn't a lot, every little bit counts. What's more, this was a job that Wan Tiansheng worked hard on for him and took a month. He couldn't let him down, right? Nangong Chen thought it was natural, nodded, and continued to grope. If Wan Tiansheng in the underworld heard what he was thinking, he would probably be so angry that he would vomit blood. Who the hell is crazy enough to work for you? Then, after a while, Nangong Chen still didn't understand how to transfer points with this bracelet. If I want to know who designed this bracelet, I'll give him a glare. Nangong Chen cursed softly, then continued to study by trying various methods, paying no attention to the giants behind him who were looking at each other in bewilderment. On the other side, the giants stared at each other. No one took the initiative to attack, and there was fear in their eyes. What is this monster doing? Why is he showing us his back? I don't know what he's doing, but it looks like he's doing something important. Should we take action then? Among these dozen giants, there were 3 giant leaders with relatively large bodies who were communicating with each other. When someone asked if they should take action, there was a strange silence and no one said a word. If you look closely, you can see that they have cold sweat on their foreheads and their bodies are trembling slightly. At this time, a giant with a bulging face seemed to have thought of something and said, "Hiss." He must have known our plan in advance and done this on purpose to lure us into action. As soon as these words were spoken, the other giants' eyes lit up instantly and they all echoed them. Yes, you're right. Humans are always cunning. This monster may seem to be indifferent to us, but in fact, its attention is always on us. As long as we make a move, we will fall into its trap. I see, this human is indeed cunning, actually coming up with such a sinister trick to deal with us noble giants. Luckily, I didn't make a move just now, otherwise I would have fallen into his trap. Now it seems that we should just hold our ground and adapt to the situation. They were already afraid of Nangong Chen and were bewitched by the giant plant. Now that there was a step to go down, they naturally accepted it. For them, they only cherish their own lives and don't care about one Tianyuan. If they were not held accountable if they went out, they would have run away long ago. Just like that, these dozen giants, with pensive expressions on their faces, quietly watched Nangong Chen tinkering with things. For a moment, the atmosphere was very weird. At this moment, other people outside were also a little confused when they saw this. What are these giants doing? Are they scared silly? Why aren't they making a move? I don't understand. What does it mean that he suddenly stopped halfway through his march? But the one with double pupils seemed to ignore them, as if he was studying something. No, why do I want to laugh when I see this scene? My fellow Taoist, you are not alone, ha ha. Everyone was relaxed, and their tone was extremely cheerful. Not far away, Chu Yin and the other 5 were also confused. Looking at the giants standing there, they didn't know what they were thinking for a moment. What are they talking about? Chu Yin frowned and looked at Ximeng. They could vaguely hear the voices of these giants, but because of their different race, they didn't know what they were saying. After hearing this, Ximeng looked a little strange. She had been knowledgeable since ancient times and had learned the languages of 108 races since she was a child, including the languages of the giants. However, after listening to what they said just now, Ximeng felt that something was wrong, so she spoke slowly. You mean, these giants are afraid of the one with double pupils and want to avenge one Tianyuan, but they dare not go. After hearing this, Chu Yin was stunned for a moment and then spoke. Ximeng nodded, very sure. The others looked enlightened. This was the reason. The giants are so spineless. Lu Dazhu complained, feeling speechless. Who would have thought that there was such a reason behind such a strange scene? In that case, why don't we take action to deal with them? Chu Yin looked at the giants, her beautiful eyes gleaming with coldness as she spoke in a cold voice. She had a reason for asking this. After they had mostly recovered, they planned to take action, but considering whether it would hinder Nangong Chen, they did not do it. Now Nangong Chen seems to be studying something, so the remaining giants will naturally be left to them. After hearing this, the others nodded. Okay, revenge for my dead brother. Chao Li glanced at the unconscious Xiong lying on the ground and said with gritted teeth. Lu Dazhu glanced at him and complained in his heart. Your brother is not dead yet. According to the time, he should be back soon. You will be scared to death when you see him later. Thinking of this, he inexplicably felt a sense of anticipation, wanting to see what the scene would be like. The others also had cold and unfriendly expressions as they looked at the giants. They'd been feeling very aggrieved for a long time. If Wan Tiansheng had not been so strong, they would have killed the other giants long ago. Although they are no match for the top-level geniuses, they are still confident in dealing with these ordinary geniuses. Soon they took action. For a moment, countless ripples of magical power intertwined, and a massive killing attack was launched simultaneously. Those giants were unable to react for a moment, and 3 of them were killed in an instant. It's those other human ants. Damn it, how dare they attack us? There was a giant with a relatively large body and eyes full of anger. Fight them. These giants all unleashed the ultimate black source of destruction, and some of them even reached the early stage of God King in terms of combat power. Even if Chao Li and his men can deal with it, they still have to remain cautious. After a few breaths, only 10 of the 16 giants were left. They were facing each other in the void, and both sides were not in a good condition. This is too hard, Lu Dezhu said breathlessly, holding a saint's hammer. His cultivation was not weak, and with the help of this saintly weapon, he could exert the strength of the peak of the great power. However, He had to strike more than 100 times before he killed a giant in the late stage of the Great Power Realm. After hearing this, Wang Teng and others all agreed that it was indeed a tricky situation. At the same time, they became more and more aware of Nangong Chen's abnormality. How strong did he have to beat Wan Tianxing so hard that he had no chance to fight back? At this moment, people outside were also a little shocked after seeing this. I underestimated these giants. I didn't expect them to be so formidable. It turns out it's not that the giants are too weak, but that the ones with double pupils are too strong. It seems that Saint Chu and the others can only fight a protracted war. They were not laughing at this moment, but were looking their opponents in the face and not looking down on them. I'll deal with these 3 powerful giants later, and you guys go kill the remaining 7. Chu Yin held the sky spear in her hand, and there was a heroic air on her delicate face, which gave her a unique charm. She was panting slightly, and the short burst of energy was a little too much for her to handle, not to mention that she was not in her peak condition yet. Yes. After hearing this, Wang Teng and the others responded, even though they looked a little tired. Just as several people were about to take action, a calm voice sounded. It's too troublesome. Let me handle it. Chu Yin and others were stunned, then turned around to look. They didn't know when Nangong Chen had come to their side. He didn't say much, his eyes were like stars, and when he raised his hand, endless divine thunder filled the void. Kill! As the sword finger fell, countless shocking purple thunders covered down in an instant. Boom! Thunder suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and a dazzling white light burst out. The remaining 10 giants were shocked. After sensing the breath of death, they all wanted to escape. But it's too late. The white light dissipated, and the pupils of several people suddenly shrank when they saw the scene in front of them. Chapter 222, The Suppression of the Wild Territory, the Power of One Person. Under the boundless divine thunder, the 10 giants' bronze bodies became as fragile as thin paper and instantly turned to ashes. This brought great shock to Wang Teng and others. Their eyes widened and their breathing fluctuated. Only now could they intuitively and deeply feel that the gap between them and Nangong Chen was as huge as the gap between heaven and earth. The giant, who was a difficult problem for them, couldn't even withstand a single blow from the one with double pupils. Ximing's beautiful eyes shone brightly, and her heart was a little shocked. This man once again refreshed her understanding of evildoers. Chu Yin hadn't expected the other party to be able to deal with these giants so quickly. She was silent for a while before she said, "Thank you." Chao Li, Wang Teng, Lu Dezhu, and Xi Ming also bowed to express their gratitude. It's just a matter of convenience. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, not taking it seriously, as if he was just cleaning up some garbage. But in fact, it is true. When several people heard this, the corners of their mouths twitched slightly, but no one said much. In this situation, it was indeed a convenient thing to do, but they felt that there was a hint of sarcasm in it. Of course, they didn't think much about it. In the outside world, at this moment in Xintian territory, countless people were witnessing this scene. They held their breath, and their bodies were filled with uncontrollable excitement. When witnessing the endless divine thunder falling, the 10 giants were instantly reduced to ashes. Exclamations rang out from everyone's mouths. "We did it! We did it! Those with double pupils are awesome! We have wiped out the entire Mang territory. From now on, who will dare to look down on our Xintian territory?" At first, they couldn't imagine it, as if they were dreaming, but after they came to their senses, their emotions burst out like a flood. Joy, excitement, and happiness fill everyone's heart. They looked at the calm and composed young man in white in the picture, full of high spirits. This moment was deeply imprinted in their minds. Even in the future, decades, or even hundreds of years later, they will be able to tell the story of what happened today. All of this was too dreamlike. If people hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes, they might have thought it was a fiction made up by some charlatan. Of course, they knew that this was not a novel, and all this was thanks to that unparalleled young man in white, the one with double pupils. At this moment, the people who are most excited and thrilled are those who have always supported those with double pupils. I knew that the one with double pupils had been quiet for so long, so he must be planning something big. Seeing him today, it's true. Who said before that those with double pupils were willing to degenerate and dared not compete with those geniuses? If the one with double pupils had not been here today, who could have stopped Wan Tianxing? Whether they were disciples of top sects or independent cultivators, they were all cheering for the one with double pupils. This also reminded everyone of the time when the man with double pupils was isolated by the villain during the sea crossing, but he still looked calm and indifferent, just like now. Even after killing all the giants in the wilderness, he remained calm and composed. They knew that this was not a subtle request for tolerance, but absolute self-confidence and a sense of belief that they were invincible. It's like I'm invincible. No matter what others think, I have the confidence to suppress all the geniuses in the world. So, that day, while crossing the sea, the man with double pupils was ostracized by the spy. What he said before leaving was exactly what he wished for. It was true. Fuck, when you mention that, it reminds me. When he left that day, there was even a smile on the corner of his mouth. That wasn't my illusion. He was really happy. Why would he be so happy? Could it be that he thinks everyone else is a burden? Based on the temperament of those with double pupils, it is indeed possible. Some people speculated, and the closer they talked about it, the more likely it seemed. At this moment, some supporters of other geniuses also twitched their lips after hearing this. They had never imagined that the person they admired would actually be a burden to the other person, and they couldn't seem to find any point to refute. Young master is too strong. In the crowd, Qing fans stared at the scene in the void in a daze, with shock in his eyes. He hadn't imagined that the methods Nangong Chen displayed that day were just the tip of the iceberg. He regretted his original thoughts. He had originally thought that Nangong Chen should be not much different from the geniuses at the top of the heavenly ranking. Now looking at him, the two sides were completely on different levels. Qing Yu, who was standing aside, also looked at Nangong Chen in the picture with excitement in her beautiful eyes. Of course, among the crowd, there was one person who walked with a limp and looked at Nangong Chen in the picture with some resentment. This person was none other than Mo Han. Just a few days ago, he said some bad things about people with double pupils. Someone heard it and threatened to teach him a lesson. At first, he thought it was some blind guy who was trying to provoke him again, and he was very excited. Just when he was about to show off his skills and act big, he didn't expect that he would pull a big wave. The man wearing the pig mask was a genius from an unknown sect, but his cultivation level was actually at the early stage of great power. He himself was only at the early stage of Purple Mansion, so he was naturally no match for him. He was beaten and kicked and ended up in such injuries. This is also why Mo Han holds a grudge against Nangong Chen. If the other party had such supporters, he would not have been beaten or even embarrassed in front of so many people. Thinking of this, Mo Han couldn't help but clench his fists, his eyes filled with anger. Although he was unbeatable in his level, the opponent was a whole realm higher than him. How could he defeat him? Just wait for me. After I practice for a year or two, I will make you pay the price. He had come all the way from northern Shenzhou and had never suffered such humiliation before. Soon, Mo Han's eyes became gloomy as he looked at the man in white in the picture. He seemed to have thought of something and spoke coldly through gritted teeth. Humph, it's just a fight against some weaker races. What's so great about it? If we encounter the gods, monsters, and others while crossing the sea, we will definitely be defeated. I want to see if you can still remain so calm then. As for why he was certain that Nangong Chen would lose, it was all due to the 100 refinements divine scripture in his mind. That day when he was crossing the sea, it allowed him to analyze the geniuses of the gods and demons. It can only be said that he was greatly shocked that day. He did not expect that among the geniuses of the same generation, there would be such a monster, and in other domains. As for the one with double pupils, he couldn't fully understand it, but according to his analysis, no matter how strong the other party was, he would definitely not be stronger than those monsters he had seen. And Mo Han thought to himself, with a hint of amusement on the corner of his mouth, as if he had seen a scene in the future. Old White, the variable you're talking about, could it be this kid? Li Songhai looked at Nangong Chen in the picture and said with some surprise. Bai Wu Dao didn't respond, because even he couldn't be sure who it was. For example, the Ice Phoenix Goddess, whose destiny was extraordinary. Her future achievements would definitely exceed everyone's imagination. So, it could be these two people or it could all be just one person. All of these are possible. That's a possibility. Even if we enter the second round and encounter some monsters from the bottom of the domain, we may still be able to advance. Li Songhai said thoughtfully, but shook his head. Even so, it depends on luck. If you meet those people from the gods and demons, there will be no way out. As a saint, he naturally knew that the foundations of some other domains were far beyond their imagination and were ridiculously strong. And after such development, their competition became relatively easy, and naturally, some extraordinary monsters were born. Of course, this is also normal. Even if Li Qishan, with his current strength, were to meet the genius of the God Clan, he would probably be defeated. Just like that, the two of them continued to look at the scene with their own thoughts. Inside the Immortal Treasure House, in a mountain range, Li Qishan and others quietly watched the gods and others go in and come out intact. Even the devil poisonous bees did not seem to attack them. Seeing this scene, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. Did they get the opportunity from the sacred tree? It seems so. Several people communicated with their spiritual thoughts without revealing anything. After receiving this information, they were somewhat shocked. They only emerged from the deep forest after the gods had completely left. This, as expected of the God Clan, They even have the means to deal with the devil venom bees. Lu Wuxin said, looking envious. On the other side, Li Muxiu looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. The two of them could sense that Xian Jie, the leader of the God clan, was ridiculously powerful. Just a wisp of breath can dissuade countless creatures around. Others didn't see it, but Li Muxiu had opened his third eye, so he could see it very clearly. Not only Xian Jie, but even the other people in the God clan are extremely powerful, and their terrifying pressure can shock the sky. Thinking of this, Li Muxiu couldn't help but sigh, hoping that Brother Nangong would not meet the other party. If he did, it would be terrible. The other party's strength can only be described as worthy of being the monster who has been ranked first in the immortal treasure for many consecutive years. Even the gods are far beyond the reach of other races. If it weren't for the two incidents involving Wen Shun and Wen Ze, the first one would definitely be their God clan. What's wrong? Li Qixin, who was beside him, saw that he was sweating profusely and asked hurriedly. After hearing this, Li Muxiu also spoke slowly.